Welcome to Brothers of the Serpent podcast.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, angels and demons and monsters and serpents. This is Brothers of the Serpent podcast, coming to you not live from the 10 by 10 by 10 Tangent Cube of Science, where we have a guest with us today, straight from the ocean, straight off the seas. Mr. Matt Stone is in studio with us today, so we'll be talking to him later on about how to blow shit up from the water.
Yep.
And but right now we're going to talk about the what do we call it? The great Texanian shit. I need to look it up. By the way, this is episode 40.
That's right, and it's on the equinox.
Brothers of the Serpent is over the hill.
The vernal equinox.
The vernal equinox. 40.
Episode 40. So we're like, it's kind of late compared to when we normally start, but we're doing it anyway because you got to have a Snake Bros episode on the equinox.
That's right.
It's fucking serious shit.
And everything has to be equal on this day. So if you talk shit to me, then I get to talk shit to you for the same amount.
Okay, fine.
Everything's equal. It's like the.
We'll call it the fairness doctrine.
Yeah, this fairness doctrine.
Equality.
So yeah, we are you trying to look up that name?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at.
We named it in such a way that Russ named it.
I
can't remember it.
I've got it really close. Yeah, we'll get it. It's too many words. Let's see.
Yeah, so we've been working on this project we were talking about last time.
The Great Texanian Astronomical Hill Hinge Project. Stone, Allen et al. See? Stone, right?
Yeah, we put a stone in charge of the project to oversee it.
Yeah.
Because we needed the Harry Potter name thing to work out.
We need the appropriate name,
so
Stone.
We don't have technically the Stone in the studio right now, but it's his twin brother.
Yeah,
so it's good enough.
Close. Yeah, have you gone to space?
No.
Okay, because like they said a twin to space and it changed him from his twin brother.
I've been around the world twice, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
like the Superman theory.
What we figured out is that Ty is actually older than Matt now because Matt's traveled more.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
so
he's
he's
went
been
around the world and did not go back the other way. So timeline and all that, date timeline. And all
Right. Also, though,
No. He was trying
talking about relativity, right?
Matt was trying to claim because he went around the world in a certain direction and didn't go back the other direction that he was older. And I was like, no, bro.
No.
Because Ty was stationary and you were moving.
Yeah.
I saw
Ty's older than you.
It's relativity, right? If you're moving and somebody else is stationary, then time is moving slower for you. Like they will age as you.
So he's my older brother now?
Yeah.
This is
Sorry, bro.
No, it's great. It's good because like it's like Fountain of Youth.
Yeah,
you know?
you're younger.
He's gonna be old and like hobbling around and shit, and you're still gonna be young. You know.
I like the Superman theory better.
Oh, Brett's mad at you, Matt.
Yeah. By the way, F you, Matt. Being all special guesty.
So anyway, we're working on the Hill Hinge project.
That's right.
And this morning we went out to the hill to work on the hinge. We set up the
And we mean way this morning.
way this morning
Like
before
dark this morning.
before light. We set up the transit level, and we found a spot on the top of the hill, and then
Kind of the highest spot on top.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we waited for the sunrise, and I had my cool 3D glasses. The solar eclipse glasses that everybody got for the solar eclipse that happened a while back. And,
I just stared straight at it like, feel the burn.
So yeah, we lined it up, and then we actually set our first the hitching post of the sun
Yeah.
for the rising sun, and it's the top of it is right on the horizon,
It's glorious.
where the sun comes up.
It appears to be right on the horizon when you're standing in the center spot where we put the transit.
Right.
And we also made the avenue of the sun, the path.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we made a couple of markers for time slots. Like you marked off 9.
Yeah. After we got the post set in its position with some concrete, we had to drill into the rock with a machine, and We got this 8-foot post.
Totally
up there.
butt flapping it, guys.
Yeah,
Totally butt flapping it.
it was like 9 o'clock. Well, it was actually 10 o'clock, but we're not considering politician time, which is daylight saving time.
Daylight saving time.
So we marked the shadow at 9, and then we marked it again at
noon.
What should have been high noon, but was actually 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
because of daylight saving time.
That's right. High noon.
So, there's one of the things I figured out, or I realized that we didn't talk about last time about the difficulty of doing this. One of the things that makes it easy for us to do it, besides all the machines and all the technology we have and all of that other stuff we talked about in the last episode, we had Google to say, when's the equinox?
Yeah.
So
you have to figure that out first,
right?
To be able to even start,
right? To be able to get cardinal directions, which is what we got today, we had Google, and we wouldn't have been able to do that. We would have had to start just randomly,
or go consult the nearest wizard or whatever.
Right.
go on a 3-week journey to find the wise man, right, on top of the mountain.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, basically, we could have at sunrise on just some random day in the year stood up a post, picked a center spot and then stood up a post marking the sunrise, and then would have had to continue doing this process over the course of a year to figure out where the actual solstices were. That would have been the most apparent thing, because the sun appears to
stop for
to rise in the same position for 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
So it would have been like, oh, that's significant. We'd have marked that one time if we were there.
Right.
And then the next year, we would have seen it do the same thing further north or south, depending on which solstice we marked. And so it would have been like, and then we would have had to probably stand up, if we got really interested and be like, okay, we're going to do this every morning.
Yeah, if you did it every day, that's how you get the
Then you'd figure out where the middle point was.
Right.
They did have a lot of time on their hands back then.
I disagree.
Yeah. It's hard to tell. Did they have a lot of time or did they not, were they constantly trying to survive? How much work does it take if you don't have agriculture? How much work does it take to get food for every day?
Oh, before internet, I was sitting around on my butt, just look at the sun shadows and be like, that's interesting.
Yeah, you got to go back a little bit farther than that.
Yeah, with high technology. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking the 80s. I didn't have too much technology back then.
The 80s. We were totally butt flapping it in the 80s, guys. we had the wild hair and the butt flaps.
Nothing but time.
That's true. You waste a lot of time on the internet, but I'm just saying, that's because we don't have to hunt, right?
Right. And in the 80s, you still didn't.
You still didn't have to hunt, yeah. Pretty sure there was grocery stores.
Yeah.
Well, what if you're like the grandpa, your kids are hunting, and you're like, oh, they got it. I'm going to stick around with the son.
But this, yeah.
Yeah, well, we're their grandpas. How long do people live? 40? 50? I don't know. Some of them did live pretty long. I think Ötzi was he was in his 60s, so the Iceman.
How did they live till 900 years, in biblical times?
Oh yeah, we don't have any of those guys. Or if we do, we don't know. So if you live 900 years, I'm sure you could figure it out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, there was something else going on that allowed them to live that long.
Yeah, something okay,
possibly
so that
high technology.
That astronaut that went to space and came back with his genes changed had increased telomeres on his DNA.
What's a telomere?
Telomere is this little thing on the end of your RNA or whatever. So when it replicates itself, the telomeres come off. Some of them come off. So they kind of limit how many times it can replicate, which is the process of aging, right? Once you run out of telomeres, the replication is no longer.
So which one's going to die first?
What?
So
the guy that went to space is going to die later than his brother who stayed here, because the guy that went to space had telomeres added to his RNA somehow. Yeah, so you need to get to space, bro.
Continue the trend.
Time to go to space.
So we just found the fountain of youth? Or?
That's what I'm saying. Adding telomeres onto the RNA is the fountain of youth. Yeah, that's been theoretical. They've considered maybe we could use retroviruses or something to add these or something and decrease the effects of aging, but this guy just went to space and somehow it happened, right? But he has also a bunch of other stuff happened. He was like 2 inches taller when he came back. He so much of his genetic code had been changed just from staying in space for so long. He was there for almost a year straight.
Well, I mean, like, was he like on like a lot of oxygen?
Well, he was just in the International Space Station where everybody else goes. He was just there for a really long time.
Because I know, like, if you go to like a hyperbolic chamber or something like that, like, you can heal.
Oh yeah, because you got
exponentially
more oxygen. Yeah.
You got some shit playing on your phone.
I do?
Yeah.
So could there have been like,
I've been hearing this this voice talking and
How about now?
like, yeah, okay.
could have been like a hyperbolic chamber where like the
Sorry.
pressure is changed and that creates enhanced healing?
Well, I mean, it's. I don't know what it is. Like, and they don't know what it is either. All they know is when he came back, they tested his DNA again against his twin, and they were so different now that they weren't. He was like, I don't even have to call that guy my brother anymore because we're so different. But like they were saying that he had a bunch of DNA that was activated by it. Like basically had space genes that were activated from his long stay in space, which implies that we all have dormant space genes that are just waiting to be activated by when you go to space.
Obviously, you're not up to date on Snake Bros.
Yeah, he said he's on episode 14.
14. I drove all the way from California and I just started.
He just binge listened. That's pretty good. Binge
yeah,
listen
bro.
all the way from 2 to 14. That's hardcore.
And he's like, I'm coming to the studio. He wanted to sit in on it.
Yeah.
So, hey, thanks for listening. Right?
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
really
trying to
appreciate
dog
it.
you, bro.
Yeah, no, that's great.
But
you're
still,
like, what,
you're not up to date.
You're not up to date on Snake Bros, bro?
Asking us questions about last episode.
I know basics about like Orgdamu and Enoch.
Oh yeah, old Adamu and Enoch.
I was hoping it was Enoch, which is stone spelled backwards.
Yeah, Enoch. The Book of Enoch. What's that? It's the Book of Stone spelled backwards.
That's what it was all
That's
about.
what it was. That's right. His name was Enoch.
So yeah, basically we figured out that that making a hinge is hard, right? But it's actually a lot of fun because we were thinking initially like, well, how are we gonna do it? How are we gonna do it? And when we get up there and we kind of like we're discussing it, and this is the way we actually work together a lot.
Yeah.
One guy has an idea, the other guy also has an idea, and they're not the same. And as we start doing it, it's like one guy's ideas are prevailing for a little while until they realize that the other guy's ideas are better. And then we change the game. Do I have time to move the transit? Yeah, you got time.
Yeah,
go. Boom. Reset it up somewhere else and
should I put this
Get
over
over
here?
it.
I don't know. We should put it over there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Russ is like,
What about that?
I want to set a post now.
Yeah. We got to start a fire. We need a
fire.
giant Beltane teepee fire. Right, come on.
It was a lot of fun, and then after we got when we kind of were in it, it was like we got into the zone and we started realizing new things. And it's like, oh, okay, we can do this. Once we had the post set, and we're watching this shadow move around, which was another thing. Like Russ had to go early, but I stayed for the sunset and checked the west point because we basically after we got the east rise, we set 180 degrees for west. We set 90 degrees for north and 270 for south.
Yeah.
And I wanted to check the sunset to see because we don't know. Well, basically what we figured out is it's 29 minutes of arc off, so almost half a degree off.
Yeah.
Where it sets.
There's a tree in the way.
Yeah, we.
I'm gonna cut that tree down. It's like you gotta cut a tree down.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So we're
right.
gonna cut that tree. Hold on, I'll be right back. And he cuts the tree down. It's like, what?
Do it every
Yeah.
day, man.
It was cedar, like we
I was
started
sad. It was a pretty big badass cedar. But
Yeah, it's
still
always
had to cut it
badass,
down.
yeah.
Like, well, I only cut one half. It branched off into two massive
Okay.
branches.
If it were oak,
saving
I'd
the
be
trees, bro.
worried.
But
If it were oak, I'd be like concerned. But
Yeah.
Cedar, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that was one positive aspect of this site is that there aren't any oaks in the way.
Well,
there were cedars.
I cut down 2 small oaks.
Yeah, but that one was burned already.
Oh, okay. All right. That's
not
good.
our fault. But
The other one was like woodpecker full of holes. It's dying. I promise.
so yeah, we figured out that and this is another thing I realized. Like I had a couple of things. Like I've been trying since I think one of the very early episodes when I was talking about looking at the stars and trying to really grasp and get this visual understanding of the motion.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what we did today really helped. I mean, just that little bit of work and watching that shadow of that post, since you know it's due east from this position and you see the way it moves, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. And just watching the sun, like, not go up, but just like cruise to the right as it's coming like sharply. I mean, like we were looking at like the spot where it like peaked, where the top edge of it like sort of peaked over the horizon. That spot, which is one we marked for east. By the time the sun was fully above the horizon, it was like way off to the right of that spot.
At least by a degree. So this is another possibility of the discrepancy in the western setting, the setting sun. Okay, because when the sun first peaked over the horizon, it's like a line, a dash.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm trying to center the transit in the middle of that line. But then as it comes up more, I realize, well, I'm off center.
Yeah.
So I move it over.
Right.
And then as it's like halfway up, I can finally see the vertical edges, sides of it. And I'm like, boom, I center it again.
Right.
And that's kind of where I left it.
Yeah. Which is good. Yeah.
Yeah. So when the sun was setting, I was having to do the same thing in reverse, right? I see the full circle, but it's also being manipulated. The shape of it is actually changing because of the atmosphere and some clouds and stuff.
Yeah. So
really, a half a degree, what it sort of translated to, how far do you think it was from that stake, Matt? 6 inches this way?
Yeah.
So was it maybe 6 inches?
44 feet, a half degree, gives you 6 inches off.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then in the horizon to the west, there's actually a kind of a tall hill.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, so I'm trying to figure out like, well, maybe the horizon over here is lower, or, and then I started thinking no, because it should have translated to a lesser degree, whereas I had to increase it. So maybe even that tall hill, which is closer, is lower than the hills far in the horizon.
Or maybe it would have been more than it would have been. You know, if the hill wasn't there and it was down like the other side, maybe it would have been more than a half a degree.
Yeah, maybe so.
You know what I mean?
So like the optimum setting would be like an island 8 miles away from anything?
Yeah, because you want water on it. Yeah.
Right.
It's totally flat, sea level. Yep.
So like, okay, the Moai, there's like the Easter Island statues on Easter Island, there's a set of them that are all facing out. All of the other statues face inwards towards the island.
Towards
I heard that like episode 13 or 12.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this.
Yeah,
guy.
all right.
All right. So there's a set of them that are all facing east, but it's due east for the spring equinox.
Yeah.
Right? The sun rises like right, they're all looking directly at it.
And they have those are the ones that have the weird like
shells on
mother
their
of pearl
eyes.
eyes so that they like reflect it.
So what does it look like at night?
It looks black. Everything's black in the dark.
Yeah. Pretty much everything is like
Episode 14, you were talking about Stonehenge with stuff that reflects at night, and you're like, wow.
Oh yeah, there's some stuff. There's some stuff that glows.
So could Easter Island have stuff like that?
Oh yeah, okay. That's an interesting idea.
Well, the Easter Islands moai are either made out of like Coralline limestone, or they're made out of like the old ones are made out of this like volcanic basalt.
Matt had a great idea too about this. So we were coming up with different ideas of what we could do with the hinge, and one of them was associated. This is me and Russ in the morning. We were thinking like, oh, we can do this with the hitching post of the sun, the one that's the eastern one, the one that we set. We're like, okay, we can make a little
like
sundial on that one, and then all these other ideas or whatever. And we were talking about making a sun dagger. Well, Matt this evening brought up the idea. He's like, dude, you need a big magnifying glass lens. And he's like, if I find one, I'm gonna find one somewhere and send it to you guys. Mount it, drill a hole, mount it inside the post to where it makes a
burn mark
point, and we put a post there where like once a year on a certain day it like burns a freaking hole in the post.
That's cool.
So then
Indiana Jones style.
Yeah. So then I started thinking like, dude, you could actually build sort of a stone chimney that has a little alcove, right, where you can stuff wood or whatever, and the lens focuses on the equinox at the sunrise or whatever, and it lights a fire, and you'll be able to see from a distance when it starts smoking. It's like boom, today's the equinox.
I was thinking of like,
that's freaking cool, dude.
I was thinking of like, how do we use the lens to automate it so that it will burn its own mark into the wood every day.
We were talking about that too. At high noon, for example, like it focuses on whatever is across. So
you would need
high noon.
You would need to have a deep hole and then have the lens way down in there, so that only at high noon does the light get all the way down to where the lens is.
Right, and then it burns a mark.
Yeah,
that's freaking cool.
Yeah, that would be really badass.
Yeah, so new ideas coming.
Yeah,
21st century freaking Stonehenge, people.
That's right. Starting out with wood, just like they did everywhere else. You start out with the wood hinges and the little rocks, but eventually it'll be gigantic sarsen stones, humongous granite, impossible blocks.
That's right.
Somehow.
Matt was talking about how he's like, oh, they had lots of time. And I was like, yeah, so they had time to like go find some granite bedrock, cut a freaking 20-ton stone out of it, and then carry it 500 miles to stand it up somewhere.
First they had to invent right angles.
Anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I'm excited about the project. So
you were also talking about like 356 concave lenses to like.
I was talking about parabolic mirrors. So the concave mirror you could mount.
Oh, yeah.
Where it would focus the light.
Oh yeah.
When
like a dish, like a satellite.
Yeah.
It's like every day would be special.
Well, it would. So wherever it focuses it.
Yeah, because if you got a dish and if the sun's over here, it'll focus the light down there. But the next day when it's over here, it'll focus it in a different spot. Because it,
Right.
depending on where it's coming from, it'll focus it in a different area.
Something like really creative you could do with that.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be really cool to set something up and just.
Some people think that the part of the Ark of the Covenant was one of those. Like the Egyptians they always show the people with these sun discs on their hats, right? Like you see them, they've got these enormous like bowling pin hats, and they've got the big disc in the horns. And some people think that those were actual sun discs that they used for cutting stone. Like it was a focus thing, maybe not a lens, but more like a mirror, And on the Ark of the Covenant, between the wings of the cherubim or the angels that were on top of it, they called that the seat of God. And supposedly sometimes it was shown with this disc there. Like they would set this thing there and it would focus light and you could catch things on fire with it and shit like that. So, yeah.
Trying to type to Brett with one hand. Are you mad because we're not reading your comments and then waiting? Because turn on your mic, bitch.
We totally saw.
I guess I had that coming.
Yeah, we totally saw your comment. We were just like, we don't want to hear what she's gonna say yet. Not yet, but go ahead now. We're ready. Go for it.
All right. So as the show's somewhat official keeper of the College of Sciences and whatnot, going back all the way to space DNA.
Oh yeah.
And it's interesting because of the way you guys were talking about the rotation you're observing in the celestial bodies from Earth, because that's the kind of rotation and motion that has to happen with the DNA in order for it to do what it did when the one twin went into space.
How do you know?
We always envision DNA as a double helix.
Yeah.
When it's actually in the nucleus, think of if you took a slinky or spring, stretched it to the point where it's humming and it has the tensile strength where you let it go. Imagine it kinking all over itself.
Yeah.
Like it's going to blend in on all axes. That's what DNA is like in the nucleus.
Right.
So for those genes to be exposed, the top most rotate like 90 degrees west and everything else goes underneath. And then if another piece comes out, like it is intensely complicated.
Oh, you mean to add telomeres?
Motion.
Is that what you're talking about? To add telomeres or something? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no, to expose the DNA just for proteins to be made from it.
Oh.
In order for it to be transcribed, you have to move like 30 different ways in different directions, pull up the right. Like,
I've got you.
It is intentional by like 30 different degrees.
Yeah.
It's as complicated as ayahuasca brew.
Right.
Like it's that kind of thing. And that's what happened. Why?
Yeah.
What makes that happen when you go into space?
Is it a physical force?
Because it's like watching a clock with all of the gears turning and everything moving, and then all of a sudden this piece of code comes out and you go, oh, that's junk DNA. Oh shit, that makes a protein?
Yeah.
We need to reconsider what junk DNA is.
So did you read? You
Like,
read the story about the guys? Because we didn't get to talk to you about this. Like you read the story about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Like, what do you think about that?
It's
activated space.
He
Get up on the mic.
physiologically changed. His body adjusted to the needs of our physiology in space. And if you go all the way down to his genetic code, he started expressing different proteins for certain things in his blood, so it was less thick.
That's epigenetic.
It had like,
isn't it? Like, because like the conventional theory of DNA is that like whatever's happening to you during your life is not going to change your DNA, right?
But that's not true.
Yeah, I know. It's epigenetics is what
Well, I
we're
mean,
talking about.
this definitely makes it seem as much less than true, and it also has some really interesting implications for evolutionary theory.
Yeah.
Did we really evolve, or just one day consciousness looks at space and goes, "Oh shit, that's coming"?
Or
Everybody start rotating.
We came from space.
Like,
How else would we
you
have?
literally could, in theory, in response to a environmental change, maybe you were a tropical people. By the next generation, you are well equipped for the snow.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But we're
if
still
you can
not.
change
We
that
have to,
quickly
like,
in space,
Kill
I
animals.
mean, there's just a lot of.
Yeah.
It implies a lot of things that I think about when I'm up late at night because it scares the crap out of me.
We get well equipped for
Like,
snow
it's-
by stealing other animals' skins. That's how we get it.
and turning them into butt flaps.
That's right.
Could pressure have a lot to do with this? Because like the hyperbolic chambers, like they take burn victims and put them in hyperbolic chambers and they heal, enhance. Like,
Isn't that because it's got a lot of oxygen in there?
probably a little bit?
Right. And it forces oxygen into the tissue.
Yeah.
So could he have like forced oxygen from his time up in?
Well, that might be because they regulate exactly to the
Yeah,
parts
but-
per
Yeah,
million
I mean,
what
I'm
the
not-
oxygen level is in the.
And they have carbon
craft.
scrubbers, but they try to maintain like an Earth-like atmosphere. It's not just oxygen.
But they're floating, so the pressure could be. I don't know.
Well, the pressure is based on
I'm out of my element.
the pressure is based on not
But
weight,
the
but
way
how
that
much
they-
air is inside the
The
container.
way that they
I
work
just
them
got a
to,
phone
like,
call, so I don't know.
to maintain physical shape, it's not just the exercise that's doing it. Their DNA is literally changing so that they have, like, let's say that the estimate would be after doing these exercises, if you want to maintain good condition in space,
Yeah, you have to.
the body is actually doing things to cut 2 hours of exercise out of that equation. Everything so that you have less demand or are better equipped to physiologically exist in space,
Right. Yeah.
like process oxygen, CO2, and all of that. So literally, the body itself is adjusting. And what made that adjustment? Why
Right.
is it happening?
Why is it happening?
Those are excellent questions.
Yeah. What about the telomeres?
Yeah.
Like he's gonna live longer now.
Yeah, the
Like what adds telomeres? Like does that ever happen in anywhere?
No, it
That's
doesn't.
What I thought.
And it doesn't. And the only thing I have is total conjecture, and I have nothing to base it on, but it is totally kick-ass, so I'm going to say it. If you were traveling through space and that was something that your DNA could recognize, your journey is negated in your life cycle if you can generate telomeres.
Wow.
So if it takes you 50 years to get from point A to
Oh my
point
God.
B, and you're 35 when you leave,
it's like being
you're
in space.
35 when you get there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's badass.
Except that you're not, because it still took 50 years.
Right.
You're like, fuck.
No, it didn't, because you
So,
weren't going around the
The
sun.
fathers of Noah and like Methuselah, who lived 900 years,
He was totally
maybe he
in
was
space.
just 56, dude, but he came from a long way away.
Yeah.
Just like Interstellar.
He was in space. Yeah. Or
So
Matt's partially right in like the planet at the time was like they lived in a if they lived down on the continental shelves like 400 feet down, and there was a lot more atmosphere and there was
Yeah.
a layer of water than
Oh, yeah.
the air pressure.
high
within-
oxygen content, you
Yeah.
got more energy from the sun, like being
Plus-
trapped. You got water
plus-
vapor everywhere. You got like high, yeah, oh
and,
yeah.
and then protection from like all the solar radiation that we still get
Mm-hmm.
and the cosmic rays. So you have
So they
Yeah,
sort of
that's
have
what
all that in the spaceship, right?
Yeah, but I mean they have shielding for but if there's a major solar storm, they all have to like run and cram themselves into this lead box or whatever. There's like
Right, but they're actually being told by people like, "Hey guys, go cram into the lead box."
go get
Like,
in
we
the-
don't have lead boxes around here where
Right.
they put out an hey guys, you
But they
might
would
wanna
actually
sit in the
die.
lead box
They would actually die if they were in a lead box.
Right.
Have they ever taken
And do you
like?
think maybe the reason why Mercury's behavior is so weird is because that's what happens when a lead box like melts in that kind of event?
What?
Like they all went and got in their lead boxes, and now we have rivers of mercury underground.
I don't even know. Go ahead, Matt. What were you gonna say?
Like, so have they ever taken twins and like put them like one in the sunlight and one like in the dark for exponential amount of time? And
I'm sure the
see
Nazis did. The Nazis
done
did.
that-
Yeah,
done the
that's
same
exactly
thing.
what I was going to say.
Well-
There definitely probably been studies like that.
And then do the same DNA
Something
test?
about the ethics of Americans doesn't let them, torture a child or something.
Well, we can, waterboarding, we can do it.
Or the Russians. I mean, like the dark science projects that we all talk about as if they were the worst thing ever, but have yielded some of the most incredible medical knowledge we now use. Not an opinion one way or the other, just a factual statement.
So why are you asking, Matt? Yeah.
How many DNA twin tests have they done to like base this off of? Like, what's the base here to go off of?
Off of what?
Like, they're like, oh yeah, these twins, their DNA changed. Is like, well, how often have you done this twin?
Oh yeah, they've
DNA,
done
DNA specifically.
Yeah, they've done plenty of those where they check the DNA of twins, and even twins that like never even knew that they were twins.
They should be able to like give us a basis of something.
Yeah, the basis is the DNA doesn't change.
Like the twins who never even knew they were twins one is probably kind of relevant to what you're saying. Like they lived different sides of the country, East Coast,
but almost
Northeast,
exactly the same lives.
Cold,
yeah. They married.
Southwest, and their DNA stays the same. Like different pollutants, so to speak, different exposure to solar radiation, temperature, different foods they're eating, everything, all this kind of stuff that we say affects DNA.
But they both have the same exact number of children.
Their DNA is still the same.
They have the same exact number of children. They both marry a girl named Mary. They, it's weird, the stuff that, like these twins that, there'll be twins that don't know that they were twins. They were separated at birth, but they will have exactly the same, they will marry women that look the same and that have the same name. They will like live in the same kind of house and have the same number of children with the same genders. Like all this stuff is like similar, even though they don't know the other one exists. Like,
unless you send them to space.
Like did they have these twins eat the same food? Like we're like, okay, you're not going anywhere. You're going to eat what this dude eats.
No, it doesn't matter though. Like food does not change our DNA.
Okay.
It was space that changed his DNA. Like basically what we're saying here is like no one's DNA changes.
It's just if I'm doing a scientific experiment, I want to create
a control.
Control. So the control is no one's DNA ever changes, and then this guy went to space and it did. That's the control. Like no one.
Right. So he actually had a twin that acted as the control for the DNA.
Yeah.
It's like their whole life they had the same DNA.
That's right.
And now they don't.
Outer space.
Now it's different
for a year or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
He's the longest.
So I actually
he's the person
just
who's
had
spent
kind
the
of a
longest amount of time in
realization
space.
that if we say all these things can cause cancer, such as, like I was saying, different things that are in food, right? Like things that we're exposed to, different levels of solar radiation, whatever it is.
We got some cancer things right here.
Why do twins on Earth who eat different diets in different climates not experience widely varied genetic codes? Because if genes can be affected by these things and that causes cancer, why don't we see it there?
Yeah. Cancer's not a disease, I don't think. You've heard me talk about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't either, but
carcinogens are bullshit.
One of those where you get an idea and you go, oh my God, wait a minute. It's not just logical. There's science there.
Well, that
might work.
Cancer is basically when the DNA is so damaged or whatever, or like a specific part of it becomes damaged to where when the cells replicate, they're like zombie cells, right?
Yeah, that's essentially what happens. And we say that, oh well, it's caused by this which is in the food and this which is in the air,
which is bullshit.
And this which is
it's caused by free neutrons.
Right. Yeah. So
you need to text that.
Like
hashtag free neutrons.
Like everything causes cancer. Just read a study, right?
Yeah, just being
if everything causes cancer, and two guys are in different places with the same DNA and they're exposed to everything, how come they don't have different DNA until they go to space?
Until one of them goes to space, yeah. But it may be because in space you're definitely getting hit by a lot more weird particles than you are here.
Right. It just, to me, that thing right there says that we are giving credit to things for causing cancer that it would seem aren't causing it, because where your pot shard.
Yeah,
we've seen those centurions.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, how did you live to 100 years? Well, I just take the shot and smoke my cigar every day.
Yeah.
And that's all I do.
Clean living and constant prayer.
So that Navy sailor, he's like, yeah, it was like a sailor or Marine or something. He's a veteran. He lived to 100. Like, what do you do? Like, I drink a couple shots a day. I smoke my cigars.
That's right. Have some whiskey. Have a cigar. That's right. That's how you do it. The English knew that back in the day. We listened to these the old Sherlock stories, on audiobook when we were working, and that's like whenever you came in out of the cold and you were like sick or whatever, they were like, here, have a whiskey. Here's a cigar. Like, it's best medicine.
Take this.
So we
That's
need
funny because the liquor raises your body temperature by narrowing your vessels, and nicotine's a stimulant. So actually, I mean, it kind of works.
Yeah, it kind of works.
But then they were saying like certain genetics, like we're just are immune to that, I guess, to certain things.
Well, some people are immune. I mean, some people people have different responses to uppers and downers too. Like some people go up when they take a downer, and some people go down when they take an upper.
Like the Ritalin kids.
Yeah, like Ritalin is basically an amphetamine, and you're giving it to somebody who's like hyperactive, but for some reason the amphetamine makes them calm. You know what I'm saying? But we need to go ahead and take a break. We're over time here, so we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back after a word from our sponsors. Sasquatch.
Snake.
Better a deal than having to kill you, Exile?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, Brothers of the Serpent podcast from the 10 by 10 by 10 Tangent Cube of Science. We are in the studio. I'm drinking a beer with Matt Stone.
Shooting some stars.
And we forgot to introduce our other in-studio guest, Tex, the golden retriever puppy that's passed out on
He
the
looks
floor.
dead.
His middle name is Ass.
He did.
Texas. Welcome, Texas, to Snake Bros, your dog.
That's right.
Don't kill us.
Dogs don't kill snakes.
Let's talk about snakes.
So yeah, interesting stuff about the DNA. But Matt has a twin brother, Ty, who's the lead guitarist in $50 Dynasty.
Yep.
And these two guys are, in my opinion, as
Like polar opposites.
far from each other as two twins can be.
Yeah.
Or like a musician and a military guy.
Well, I think there's something in the humor that's very similar, but
Well, yeah, you guys are similar in a lot of ways, but
Yeah.
but more just like normal brothers would be.
yeah.
But yeah, so
They're paternal twins. They're not. So they're the kind that doesn't necessarily look the same and all that stuff.
I teabagged him for 9 months.
This is a family show. God damn it.
So yeah, we've already established that because you traveled around the world with the Navy, that you and Ty are different now, more different than you used to be. But I bet you your genes are still the same. So what you need to do is go to space,
You gotta go to space.
and then you guys can basically
Really
say from
diverge.
that point on that you're no longer twins.
That's right. You're no longer
But
related.
right now you're still twins, bro. Sorry, you're related to Ty and you're a twin.
It's
with him.
terrible. It's a terrible thing. I'm sure the Navy can arrange to send you
Yeah.
to space.
For anybody that doesn't remember, Ty is our first caller.
Yeah, he was the first call. He was calling in to complain that Kyle didn't know who made Star Wars.
He tried to call us Snake Sisters.
Yeah.
He's like,
he's
I'm
Snake
gonna have to call you guys Snake Sisters.
Yeah. Ooh. Wrecked.
So yeah, we made a. We started our wood hinge today, and I'm shooting stars right now.
Shooting stars.
Lone Star beers. Shooting.
You can't get them in California, so.
Yeah, it's Texas beer.
Yeah.
Can't get a lot of things in California, like freedom.
Well, Whataburger.
This is not a political show.
Oh yeah, damn it. Sorry.
Well, you can't get Whataburger either, so.
Whataburger's in Texas. Can't get the Hebe.
Yeah, I found one in Phoenix, though. And I stopped there. Like, I did.
Phoenix, isn't that an interesting name for a city? Like in the middle of the desert. Phoenix.
Yeah.
Remember we grew up next to a Phoenix,
Yeah.
Alabama.
Yep.
Phoenix, Arizona. It's like,
Do you know Coachella is a city?
No, but
Like, they had the Coachella Festival. Well, I drove through the city of Coachella, and I was like,
what's a Coachella festival?
it's, I don't know, they do things like I don't know.
Where?
They do music. It's like East California.
Oh, well,
And
nobody
it's,
cares.
it's
Yeah,
supposed,
no one
it's
cares about
supposed- well, it's supposed to be like a great.
It's cultural appropriation, bro. They shouldn't be doing it.
Okay. I didn't know it was a city.
Where is the city?
Coachella,
I mean, where is it?
East California.
Oh,
Right
it's in
in
California too. It's not even.
On I-10 to.
I thought you were talking about like in it's like Europe somewhere or whatever. Like you were sending pictures. Where were you at? Where you were looking at the ruins? Where were you?
Esopus?
Turkey?
Yeah, Esopus ruins.
Yeah, those were badass.
Yeah. Like right above there is where like supposedly Mary lived out her days. Like
Magdalene or the mother?
I think it was the mother.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure. They were just like Mary. I was like, oh.
What's her last name? Christ? With Mary Christ?
What the weird thing?
I don't know.
The weird thing about it is
Of
like
God?
I was walking through there and I was like, oh
Mother
yeah,
of
this is
God.
cool, whatever. I've been there twice and I
Yeah.
was like they do the tour and I'm just like, yeah, cool. Well, the
I
weird
think
thing
Mary.
was-
No, I think Mary is her last name. The Virgin is her first name.
Oh, right.
It's whoever ran away, the one that ran away, and then helped write books.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're talking about the mother. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was supposedly went to England with old Joseph.
Well, over in Esopus, they wrote some books too. With somebody, Peter. or
Lots of
something,
books
I
were
don't
being
know.
written at the time.
They were like they all ran to Turkey to write books, and like I did not know that. I was like, really? This is all like happened after the fact.
Have you seen the cart ruts? Like, have you been to Malta?
I've been to Malta.
Okay. Have you seen the cart ruts on the ground there?
Cartwrights. Yeah, that's a hell of a mountain, Malta.
Yeah.
I know Malta. I haven't been to Malta. I
Yeah.
went to Masada.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Malta's in the Mediterranean. It's an island in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
You haven't been there.
No, we escorted before we launched missiles at Libya. We escorted the embassy to Malta, and we dropped them off, and then we went back to Tripoli.
Okay, so you did go, but you didn't get out. You didn't.
I saw it from a distance.
Yeah. There's some crazy ancient ruins there that are unlike anything else in the world. And then there's like, so like the island is all, it's like this uplifted limestone, right? And there's like fucking.
Hello.
It looks like if you were driving through mud, you leave these ruts in the mud, but it's rock, all over the island.
Parallel lines.
When I did Fleet Week in New York, I did hook up with a UN girl that for Malta, and she had red hair, and she might have been a spy. I don't know, but
Oh yeah. She was she was here with the entourage from Malta. Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
she worked for. She's from Phoenix, and
Wow,
she
that's
was
weird.
there and worked for the UN Malta. And
Yeah.
she showed me her card, and she's like, "Yeah, worked for the UN Malta." And I was like-
Diplomatic immunity.
her hair was red fire, and like she was so hot.
From Phoenix?
We had a great night. We went to a jazz festival. and,
All
like-
right.
Like,
I
and then
think-
we made out a lot, and then
I think the Maltese are like
it
Sicilians.
was so great. And
This
then
is
like,
a family show, Matt.
Yeah.
oh, sorry. And then when I drove
God
cross
damn it.
country, and like I called her up, I was like, "Hey, I'm about to go through Phoenix. Let's hook up." She's like, "Lose my number."
Yeah, it's the mysteries of the mating rituals, ladies and gentlemen.
But she loved that sailor. She
Yeah.
just didn't care for the sailor who was not in New York. And she had this cherry red dress.
So I was asking you about the ancient ruins and the cart ruts. Like,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, we have science to do here.
Yeah, we're trying to
Yeah.
do science, bro. Like,
Well, you asked,
You
about,
wanna-
Mal-
if
you
you
asked about Malta, and I hooked up with this UN chick
yeah,
from Malta.
It's the wrong association is what I'm trying to say.
So basically, your relationship with her is now an ancient ruin.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
Got it.
Made the connection.
Yeah. That's right. You could not hook up with her because of impossible blocks. Right?
We talked about other places like Palermo, Crete, Cyprus.
Well, where? Okay, you've
Africa.
been all over the world. So what did you visit? Any ancient sites other than the one in Turkey that you took pictures of?
Like, you've been
Yeah,
to pyramids. Any pyramids?
No pyramids. No.
Ziggurats, pyramids, nothing? No giant triangles?
Crete,
Get out.
Crete and Cyprus.
You can't even, just get out of here.
Get out of
You've been
Africa.
all over the world and you've never been to a pyramid?
I went to Aphrodite's birthplace. No, when we did port visits to Haifa, we went to Jerusalem, Capernaum.
Long day.
Capernaum is supposedly where Jesus was like raised or something.
Oh, okay.
Capernaum.
Don't know that one. So you went to Jerusalem, did you look at the wall, the Wailing Wall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Put my hand on there.
Did you go down underneath to see those enormous blocks that they found underneath there. They're huge.
I
Like
saw blocks. I'm not sure if that.
like they've got a sort of a path that kind of goes down beneath the platform because it's a big platform, right?
It was a tour group. They're kind of like they were real pushy.
Yeah, I think they take the tours down underneath it. That's what they made the path for. They dug it down through there so that you could see the ancient foundations of the
It's
platform.
pretty big rocks.
Yeah, the Temple Mount is like it's a gigantic platform built at on the tip of Mount Moira. Like there's a mountain under there somewhere, and they kind of made this giant platform there. But
Did I ever tell you my story about trying to start the apocalypse?
no, you didn't tell me that. I did that
I'm scared.
too. Yeah.
All right, going off
I take it
topic.
you failed though.
I might
right?
be going. No, well, I mean,
It's still going. It's an ongoing thing.
it's up to
work in progress.
interpretation. Okay, so like I was walking through Jerusalem and like I come across like this thing and they're talking to me. They're like some religion. I think it was like Mormon or something like that. They were like, yeah, man, someone goes up and blows a trumpet and like all of a sudden like stuff happens and like Armageddon starts.
So you went and found a trumpet.
It says it says that Mount Olive splits in two with the earthquake to the east, and then there's a solar eclipse, and then it's just like Armageddon starts.
Yeah, I think that's
So
in the
I'm like-
Bible, too, yeah.
So I went bought a ram's horn.
Yeah.
I spent $1,200 on this thing. It was just like
Oh, wow.
silver all over it. Like,
Hell yeah, where's
was
it at?
It's at my house.
Okay, bring it over.
Yeah, you
next
gotta bring
time.
it over.
What? You got a freaking $1,200 ram's horn, and you didn't bring it to the studio for your first Negros?
Yeah, because
What? Double get out.
get out. No pyramids,
come
no
back
ram's
later
horn,
with ram horn.
Throw my money at this ram's horn. I'm like, yes, I got it. They're like, we're going to Mount Olives later on tonight to watch watch Mount, from Mount Olives see Jerusalem at night. I was
Yeah.
like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the
gonna go
apocalypse happen.
You're gonna go start Ragnarok. Right. Wait, Ragnarok. Wait, that's the wrong
So
one.
we take the bus up there, we get to the top, and I'm just like, I got this ram's horn. I'm like, here it goes. I didn't know how to blow it right.
Yeah.
I did.
You're like the guy in Monty Python, right?
So I started.
Sax man.
I started humming it. So I was like, ooh. I was like, that's good. Though.
Oh, no, it's not.
I even have a picture of it. I was like, hey, take a picture while I start the Armageddon. He was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. We got Mount Olives. We got the temple behind. I was like, wait. I was like, okay. Let's just wait and see what happens. Well, the next day though, there was an earthquake to the east.
Ooh.
One of Mount Olives though, but it was in Iran. So I was like,
What about
that's east?
You get the
That
eclipse?
counts. That counts. That's one.
You gotta wait for the eclipse. You gotta do it.
There was a partial solar eclipse the next day. I was like, halfway there. It wasn't a full
Let me
eclipse.
guess. It was June 14th.
No. It's
see?
actually January 3rd. Yeah.
It's not.
2000.
Well, it's a J with a 3 in there.
2011. but
So-
on that next day though, Lebanon started their Arab Spring with the uprising and stuff like that,
Oh,
which,
so
which
you did
then
start-
moved on to Syria and
That
moved
was an
on to
apocalypse.
Libya and all that. I'm totally taking credit for all that fuck ups over
Probably
there.
shouldn't do that.
And like 4 months later, I was launching missiles in March. Well, not 4 months, like 3 months later, March 23rd, I was launching missiles at
Like,
Libya.
what
I
are they
was
doing?
like-
We need to stop this. You're like,
I was like, why do we do? What's going on? I'm like, I put that horn.
why are you shooting missiles at it? You started it.
It's like,
You know?
I blew the horn.
Just doing his job, dude.
Now I get to launch missiles.
Yeah. That's what
Armageddon, here we are.
God damn it, I want to use these fancy missiles I've been building. I'm going to go blow
We
Armageddon.
launched all of them. We're like, oh, we're on missiles, and they're like, we can load up in Palermo. I'm like, what? No, it was like one of the bases over there. They're like, oh, hell yeah! So we got over there. They shipped a bunch of missiles. We loaded up, crossed international waters. Boom, started launching more. And it's like, hell yeah!
What were you guys shooting at?
Airfields and barracks.
Okay,
and
yeah,
like-
yeah.
Well, not like barracks where people were in. They call it the barracks, but really it was like an office building that was Gaddafi. Well, it was messed up though, because like Gaddafi was bombarding civilian populations. So, like Captain's like, come on, check out the civilian population.
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, dude, check out the fireworks, celebratory fireworks. Like, yeah, and then it was like, well,
So you
that's a
guys
big- that's a big ball of fire. Like,
You guys were
that's-
providing like naval support for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was after we moved over to Malta. And then I was like, that's not fireworks. That's a ball of fire. That's artillery bombardment.
Yeah.
And so and then we got NATO and NATO and NATO, a couple three subs just popped up underneath us.
You're like, whoa.
How long y'all guys been here?
Hey guys.
Like, yeah, man, we've been here. Don't worry about it.
Whose subs were they? Ours?
They were ours. They were ours.
Okay,
Yeah. Russians were following us too. But like,
Of course they were. They were already planning.
But like it was all
They're
that blew
following
that
you.
horn though, you know. You blow
Yeah,
around
so-
this horn in my olives, you get to like blow up stuff. It was great.
So you're trying to take credit for all that shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you read all these stories, they're like,
I was pretty sure Obama took credit for the Arab Spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like. So that means we can blame you for the massive refugee
Well, I mean-
crisis.
I could probably like write a scripture now, right?
Yeah. You could.
Well, okay, no.
Eli,
Don't worry about that. Hey, don't worry about that because this is the 21st century and we have podcasts.
That's right.
Oh.
So you just did that.
Yeah.
So this is the book of Eli.
This is the
Enoch.
book of Enoch.
Enoch.
Book of Enos.
That's right.
Stone back.
There we go.
That's right.
All right.
Episode 40, Book of Enoch.
I want a
Right.
statue. Can I get a statue? Me and midships like smoke a cigar.
Maybe
Well, maybe
someday
some high
when someone
relief.
makes a
Ram's
religion
horn.
after you, which we're not going to do right now.
Right.
But
Maybe not a statue, but you might get some high relief.
Okay.
skip a bit, brother. Next chapter.
Okay, Malta. Back to that. What were we talking about?
Well, I was just asking you, so what kind of ancient ruins have you seen?
Esopus. Dudes went there too.
Well,
Whiskey
just,
Cow.
like describe them. Who made them? What were they like?
Okay, one of the apostles went over there after like the Jesus thing stuff happened and like crucifix and all that, and they all jumped ship and went to Turkey, and then they were all like writing books, and they were like, I don't know, it was a nice little city with like ruins and shit.
Okay. What kind of ruins were they? Just old buildings or
Kind of like Greek.
were they columns?
Yeah, a lot of columns.
Okay.
I sat on them and did like
Yeah, I saw some of the pictures and yeah. So, but you've never seen you didn't go to Lebanon? You've never been there?
no, I never went to Lebanon.
Yeah, because you got to go to Baalbek. Like that place is
Balsac?
Baalbek. Yeah, the place of the ball.
What's
Baal.
what
Yeah.
could I find there?
It's Baalbek has the largest cut stones ever made anywhere ever that we know of that were placed in a wall. I mean, they're huge.
Wait, is that the ones
900 tons
in
each.
the mountain where you got these like statues inside like a mountain?
No, that's also a cool place. That's in Turkey though.
There's something about
It's way up on top of the mountain, and there's all the statues. It kind of looks like a chess set.
in like
Oh, you're talking about Petra. Is that Petra?
they're like inside a cliff, like these.
They're cut out of the cliff wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be Egypt because they did that there, where they got the pharaohs sitting,
Oh, that's Egypt. Okay.
or Petra, where they like down in the canyon. That like they used it for Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade to pet the temples
yeah.
in Petra in Jordan.
It's inside like a canyon.
Yeah, it's in a crack. But rock cut stuff is amazing. Like Pakistan has a lot of rock cut temples where it's like there's like this stone like cliff wall or mountain or whatever, and there's just this enormous hole cut in it, and when they're cutting the hole, they leave a temple.
Went to Bethlehem.
Oh yeah.
Bethlehem. Yeah, Bethlehem was cool. Pergamum was cool. Went to that church in Jerusalem where like the ladder is, and like everyone's arguing about the ladder, and then like you go in, and it's supposed to be the center of the world or some shit.
You talking about
The navel of the
Church.
the mosque?
Like, no,
Oh, the navel. Okay.
Church of something. I don't know.
What's
It's supposedly like where Jesus was crucified, and like this big old cathedral over it. And there's like the center of everything.
Yeah, I don't know as much about the religious stuff in Jerusalem. I know more about the really, really ancient shit there.
Masada was cool. That's where like Solomon or something. Oh, some I can't remember, but like some like super king of the Jews or something like that went to the top of this mountain. It's way up there. Like on top
Solomon,
of a plateau. And then like the Romans surrounded it, and they were just like camped out there for a long time. You can see like where they were, and like, and then eventually they.
I know there are weird flat. Okay, so like throughout the mountains, out there in the desert, there's like some places where there's these flat platforms that are like all the way up at the very top of the mountains, and they call those the seats of Solomon because he supposedly had the flying city thing or whatever, and he would like land on these flat places on the mountains. He would like hop from.
Yeah, supposedly he had like a tapestry.
Right, the flying tapestry.
It was massive.
Yeah.
Square miles.
Yeah, I think it was
And
probably a
his entire
Vimana,
city
right?
was
yeah,
his entire city was built on it, and he
Yeah.
could just like move the whole city wherever.
right. Yeah,
And then he could land anywhere, and supposedly he had demons that would bring water.
Yeah, and so there are these like throughout the mountains out there in the desert, there are these places where there's these weird-looking, like perfectly flat platforms all the way up to the top at the ridges of the mountains. They're really big and flat, and they call them the Seats of Solomon.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting stories we should go over at some point.
Isn't that in the Legends of the Jews?
Legends of the Jews. Yeah,
man, there's some fascinating
story.
Yeah, the story with where he's looking for the Shamir is badass. Yeah. He's like talking to the different animals. It sounds like a fairy tale, right? Where it's like, oh, you gotta talk to my brother. He's older than me.
Yeah,
more about that. He keeps getting sent to an older guy, and then.
But the whole thing sounds like when he asks for wisdom and he gets the ring.
Yeah,
it gives him control of the demons.
Yeah,
and then he summons each demon.
Yeah.
Before him and
gives all their knowledge.
Finds them and does all this stuff and like
tell me everything you know.
Yeah, he destroys a bunch of them that were just totally evil and bad, and then other ones that had like useful aspects, he would use them or bend them to his will with the ring. And this is where like the whole like pretty much all of if you go and research magic in any serious way and you try to like find the roots of it, it all comes from supposedly Solomon and the whole like all these rituals you might see in movies where they paint the circles with the stars and all these symbols around and light candles, all this stuff originates from the story of Solomon and the Legend of the Jews.
Yeah. But
it sounds like technology.
Yeah, like, some of it does. The
forces of nature and
the circles. Like so there's the idea of the jinn, and then the concept of the true name, right? Yeah, and they keep them hidden because.
But the jinn is like they're basically the demons.
Yeah, made of smokeless fire.
Right,
and they were lords of the earth until. God was like, well, I'm going to create man, and you guys need to like kind of move out of the way. And there was some kind of deal made where they were able to keep what was it? They kept the night or the shadow or something like that. And man got the light, which is why we can't see them or something. They're kind of invisible. They live here, but they're phased out or whatever.
Yeah,
and they're not supposed to make any contact or whatever, but they do, but anyone that is making contact is breaking the rules, so it's a bad one, like automatically.
Right, but you know how we talk about these ways to analyze, like for example, your Grail story, right, with the candles and this whole procession that happens, and this is the part of the comet coming in and breaking up and being all these different aspects of it.
Yeah,
each jinn has this set of things, like they have a group of people that go with them and the people are such a way, or they ride these certain beasts, or they play music, or there's trumpets, or there's something. And so it's like each jinn with all of its different aspects and powers is similar to like the way we would look at like
classified nature,
like a god, one of the Greek gods or whatever that's actually a planet that has all these different powers and all this kind of stuff.
He's the god of storms or something.
Yeah, they have these different things and they have a whole host of people and all this kind of stuff.
So you're talking about the 72 demons of Solomon, right?
Right. Yeah, the jinn, they're basically the same thing. Yeah. But it's like they have all these specifics and you can it kind of reminds me of like physics in a way, like when there's certain aspects of physics that have all these different properties and different ways that they interact with other things. Yeah. And so like you're dealing with this one force and it does all of this crazy shit, right? And so when you're trying to manipulate the force, you have to deal with all of these consequences. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. And then like once they're all extremely powerful, and so the idea is that if you summon one, it's dangerous. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's typically like the typical analogy is that they're demons and then they're going to get into your spirit and they're going to cause you to, they'll take you over or whatever. And maybe that's true. Maybe it is more a spiritual thing, but it just reminds me of like these ideas of physics. Like if you harness this power or, think about like nuclear weapons or something. Once you harness this power, there's all this danger in it. Yeah. It's going to rot you out from the inside out, and your fingernails are going to fall off, and your hair's going to fall out, and all this kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, I think it can be the same thing, but like if you just look at it in terms of say animism or where basically you have agency or consciousness in these forces, right?
Yeah.
So, so there is some kind of purpose there. So this is why you would see, like, the Greeks called them daemons, right? A daemon is a like a personified force, or what
was it? Who is it?
What?
The daemon is what is the personified force?
The daemon. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was reading what
Oh yeah. A daemon, like, so that's where we get the word demon, but
Yeah.
but they meant, like, daemon was more of it's kind of a force of nature, but it has a personality. It's got agency and consciousness in a way. They have very specific rules that they have to follow. So you can kind of, with the idea of Solomonic magic is that you can make pacts with them if you follow these very specific rules based on the being that you're dealing with, and you have to know its true. You have to know its true nature, but the true name, which is the circle. So, like, you draw this circle, and it's got all these. Like, if you look at the 72 demons of Solomon, each one has a very specific symbol that is associated with them, and that I've read that the symbols, because when you look at them, you're like, why is it so weird?
Yeah.
And I've read that they're made that way on purpose because they wanted it to be so that you could never accidentally draw one. Like, because people make doodles and shit, and they made these symbols. They're all based on a circle in one way or another, but they're so strange,
right,
that no one will ever accidentally just kind of doodle one of those things, right? Yeah. That's how weird they are. They have to be drawn in specific order, and sometimes, like, people go all out and use like the Navajo do the sand painting. It's the same concept where you have, like, they go out in the desert and they find all this different colored sand, which means it's got different materials in it, right? It's copper and iron and shit like that. And then they make these enormous, like, paintings on the floor of a specific hut with all these different colored sands. And then that somehow does something. It does some magic, heals people, or
and so in this idea of magic or whatever, like, there's if you look up the lesser or greater key of Solomon or anything that's based off of those things, if you're gonna try to do a spell or whatever, you have to go to a like hidden place or whatever, and you have to use these paints that are very specific colors to do all of this kind of stuff.
That's right.
And that is the idea of the true name, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah. And it's to me that it's always looked like what are we interacting with here? Like, it's like, what's the deal with the colors? Like, so is it those colors because those colors are coming from a specific material?
Well, you could think about it in terms of waves too, where using different pigments, you're actually causing the waves of the light spectrum to be absorbed and reflected in certain ways. Right? So you're actually doing something physical when you paint. Right. Like the ultimate result causes a very specific physical, like, organization of wave forms and wave frequencies.
Right. And that's what I'm wondering. Like, is it the frequency that we're looking for? In other words, the color. Right. And that's why you want copper because it's green, or iron because it's red. Or is it you want to look for red because it's got iron in it? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Or maybe it's both. Like, you need the red for the light, but you need the iron for the stuff that it does too, or the interactions. But then you tie it into the spiritual realm, or maybe you just call it the consciousness, right? If all of these things have agency, like you were saying, like, you can see how the 72 demons of Solomon seem to be, they kind of fill out all the forces of nature. They all, and not necessarily even of nature, but
it just reminds me of the way that those types of things were personified. Right, in the ancient texts.
Yeah, and, like, that's what I'm saying. So, like, they were personifying them because that's how they saw the world. They saw these. And
or that's how they were trying to preserve the truth.
Oh yeah,
right. Was to make it something that people would associate with.
Yeah. Well, I think they would recognize certain personality traits in certain things, like I'm trying to think of a good example. Like a river, like river spirits or whatever. They love humans. Right? That's how the ancients would look at it. Like, rivers love humans most of the time. Sometimes they flip out and, like, they then they become the raging river, right? And they destroy everything next to them. But most of the time they are attracting humans to them, and, like, humans build enormous cities in river, the bends of a river, and the river just kind of, like, coddles it and, like, holds it there. This enormous city with all these humans, and every once in a while it's like, and destroys the city, right? But that's why they're always depicted as, like, some kind of a serpent, like obviously a river is a big serpent, right? But it's a kindly dragon, and it brings sustenance and everything. But sometimes it flips out and kills everybody. But so the ancients would see these things as being a force that follows certain rules that you have to reckon with. But at the same time, it isn't just like an unconscious. It's not materialism. Like there's, like you can.
Yeah,
think of it
I agree with that.
Yeah, you can think of it in terms of materialism, but then there's an added thing, like people name their boats or their cars. Like oh Betsy does good. Like why do they do that? Like what are you personifying? Well, it has an attitude. Like
I see,
especially
like,
machines
like
do this.
a long time ago when we first started talking about the idea of Nephas.
Yeah.
And I asked you, like, well, are they good or bad? Because, like, we were looking at all these different possibilities, and your answer, I was basically like, I don't think it's black and white. There's gray area.
Yeah.
And I apply that to all this type of, these types of ideas. Like, I always tend to look for the physical, some representation of physics, because I think that's fascinating. I think that ancient people, I believe in the possibility shooting stars. I believe in the possibility that there was a high society of humans, or not high society, high technology. Not sure how to describe it.
Yeah, maybe on a completely different track than our technology.
But I think that there was an attempt to preserve it.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not strictly that they're only talking about procession in the Bible when there's all these numbers that have to do with procession.
Yeah.
But that's an aspect of it.
Yeah.
They're also talking about these spiritual aspects or the conscious aspects or whatever. So I agree with you. I think that...
And all those things may be tied together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the reason you can't talk about one without talking about the other, but because we come from from a generally like Western education sort of materialist world, like where
there is this divide between science and religion, as though they're just completely different things.
Yeah, but science and spiritualism is what I'm talking about.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, science and spiritualism.
Well, yeah, a lot of people, and especially the ancients, would say that there is no difference. Like there cannot. If there's a difference, then there's something wrong, right?
So it's a challenge to look, into these scientific discoveries that we have, like, and we've talked about this before with like AI, and see or try to take some of these discoveries and sort of apply them to spiritualism in a way,
or the magical thinking,
right?
So why did showing like I find it fascinating that some forces seem to have personalities. Like this is an interesting concept to me. Like, and this is where the idea of a demon comes from, right? Something that is like a force of nature, but has a consciousness. Maybe it is able to think. Maybe it can do. Maybe it isn't just doing, like, it's not just following rules and doing its force thing because it has to, but it also is like choosing to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe it chooses to do it and it has to do it. Like who's the guy that, it wasn't Faith, and the dude who like drove the chariot of the sun across the sky, right? He has to do that every day, right? He doesn't have a choice. He's got to drive that chariot of the sun across the sky every day.
But he chose his position as the guy that does that.
Yeah. And like one day he lets Phaeton do it. Right, he tells him, he's like, you got to be careful, man. Those horses are like hardcore, crazy, fire sun horses. They can get away from you if you're not careful. And Phaeton doesn't know what he's doing, but the guy's his dad. Like so he went to look for him because he finds out, like, wait, my dad is the sun god? Holy shit! So he goes and finds him, and then he's like, well, I would just want to, in the story. The sun god is like, I'll grant you anything. Like, I'm so glad to see you, blah, blah, blah. I'll grant you anything you wish. Like, what do you desire? And Phaeton's like, I want to drive the chariot of the sun. And he's like, anything but that, right? Anything, but because he's already said it, the nature of these things is like they have to keep their word, right? So he has to let him do it because he told him he would let him do whatever he wanted. But he doesn't think it's a good idea. And Phaeton gets in there and he wrecks the chariot. And this is probably a myth of the the comet impact.
Comet impact, yeah.
Because it looks like it comes right out of the sun. So like the story tells he gets out there and the horses take off and it's like, and he gets out of control and shit, and they come down and they fucking hit the ground and like cause all this crazy destruction.
Dude, there's actually there's this. I think it's new. I think it's on Netflix. There's this kind of a new movie called Guardian of the Moon.
No.
And you're pretty much describing that story. And Laura and I watched it the other night. And I was like, this is a freaking awesome cartoon, right? It's a cartoon movie.
Wow.
We put it on for Soul, but then we ended up like glued to it watching it. And it's basically what you're saying, but it's...
So it's telling the story of Phaeton, sort of?
I guess so, because I was like, man, this is like... There's some esoteric something going on here.
Mythy here, yeah.
Guardian of the Moon, I think is what it's
Guardian
called.
of the Moon, huh?
But yeah, you should watch that.
Yeah, I'll check
and
it
then
out.
Come back and tell me about it.
Like Secret of Kells was amazing in that way.
Yeah.
Like that was awesome. I love that freaking animation. The puzzles that they had in there. It's just like when you're looking down on something and you see all these like patterns and shit and stuff. It's just like, oh my god, this is badass. And then to find out the Book of Kells is real, that was also really cool too.
No kidding, it's real.
Yeah, it was a real.
Okay, well, I didn't know
the
that.
Book of
This
Kells.
is another one. I'm like, hey, bro, I just watched this badass
Yeah, you're
cartoon.
like,
You should watch this. There's some like esoteric shit.
So I watched it and I'm like, is this? Were they really? You know, because in the story they've got these monks. What did they call them? They were basically like monks, but instead of like writing scripture, they were actually like illustrating this beautiful. And they were doing it in all these, like their special knowledge was how to make all these different inks that made all these different colors. And it was because the time that they lived in was so drab and dreary, and like, you know, I think it was in Ireland, right? So it's like there's always mist and shit.
They were afraid of the Vikings.
Yeah, the Vikings were good. The Vikings were always raiding them. The Northmen, that's what they called them. And so everybody was like hiding in these walled towns and shit, and they just kind of had shitty lives. But these guys would illustrate these beautiful pages with all this fucking color and designs and everything in it, and it would people would look at it and it would blow their minds. It would literally make them. It was so beautiful because they just didn't see shit like that. They didn't see the colors, and it's called the Book of Kells, and it's a real thing. I went and found actual pages of the actual Book of Kells, and it's fucking amazing looking. Like, of course, it's ancient now, and so the colors are all faded, but you can look at the intricate design, like.
Wow!
You're like, how do they do this? You know, in the animation, the cartoon, the premise is that he goes and gets a magnifying glass, which is something that in the ancient world they didn't know how to do it. So he finds a specific crystal that will allow him to like hold it up to his eye, and it magnifies the page, so he can draw these tiny, intricate designs, right? But of course, he has to get the crystal from the dark one. He has to fight the serpent, which has a single eye, and like he fights it and takes the crystal as its
and
eye.
the way he fights is by turning it into the Ouroboros.
Yeah, he does math.
Ouroboros.
Yeah, he makes it eat itself into nothing, which is like a weird. That's a kind of it's a, I don't know what to call it. It's, you see it in fairy tales type stories. Like there's some monster that is it's invincible. It cannot be hurt, right? And it
can devour everything.
And it has an insatiable appetite. So what you have to do is make it eat itself, and like, you know, and it like eats itself down to this little tiny little ball, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and like vanishes into like infinite nothingness. Yeah. It's math, basically.
He kills it with math.
Yeah. Heinlein wrote a story, or his hero guy did that or whatever, and when they were telling the story, one of the other characters was like, well, you didn't tell me he was a mathematician. It's like, what? Divide by 0.
That's awesome.
All right, so we got to take a break, and we will come back for the second hour and more ancient ruins, Matt not going to pyramids, and talking about redheads.
Snakes. Let's talk about snakes.
Snakes. Gravity?
I believe in gravity.
I believe.
I believe.
I thought there was no law in that.
There is no law of gravity, but I believe in gravity. All right, it is the second hour of Brothers of the Serpent podcast, episode 4040.
On the Equinox.
On the Equinox.
2018.
2018. Hey, who's doing this intro? Who's doing this intro?
We're both doing it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's the Equinox. Equal intros for equal opportunities. So I was reading about this. Okay, so the concept of redshift, right? So one of the reasons why the whole Big Bang kind of took hold, and then the idea of the expanding universe, is because when astronomers were looking at really, really distant objects, so like very distant galaxies and shit, they noticed that that there's a redshift to frequencies of light that are like, it's kind of weird to explain it, because I was looking at this, I was like, are they basing this off of stars that they think all look the same? And that's not it. It's that, like, so there will be like hydrogen gas in between us and this distant galaxy, right? And the light from that galaxy has to go through the hydrogen gas. Well, the hydrogen like has a specific frequency that
it absorbs.
Yeah. And so when that's redshifted, right, the frequency is absorbed, and then it gets redshifted by the distance or whatever. So that's what it is. So like they know what frequency hydrogen absorbs, and then it gets redshifted over this, like, these extreme distances. Now, like, the idea is that it's the Doppler effect, right? So like a car goes past you, goes like, it's the Doppler. Like, it's coming towards you, it's compressed. Past you, it's rarefied. So the Doppler. The same thing happens to light, right?
When it's coming towards you, the frequency of vibration is more frequent.
Right.
When it's going away from you,
it's spread out.
It's less frequent. The vibrations are less frequent.
Right.
Because the vibrations travel at the same speed no matter what.
Right. So the same thing is happening with light. So it will shift. It tends to shift the light. If something is traveling away from you very quickly, and it's luminous, the speed of it traveling away from you tends to shift its light towards the red end of the spectrum, which is the lower frequency end. Right. Now, obviously, it's not always in the visible spectrum. Like, it'll shift stuff from the gamma well, I don't think we've ever witnessed this, but stuff in the gamma, which is at the very top of the frequency, can be shifted all the way down to, like, the deep infrared. But that would be relativistic. You would have to be going, or whatever it was, would have to be going like an appreciable amount of light speed for that to happen. But there's this other kind of redshift that they talk about, and I was trying to figure this out, but they were saying that it's different from the Doppler shift. And this is a shift that's supposedly being caused because in between us and this very distant object, actually new space is appearing. Space is expanding, right? So this is causing another kind of redshift, right? So everything that we look at in the universe, and the way that they gauge how far away something is, and thus how much energy something needs to have, right? So when they're looking at something and they think it's incredibly distant, like a quasar, they think this quasar is 200 billion light years away because of the redshift that they're looking at.
Are they wrong?
What?
Are they wrong?
I don't know. I'm getting to, like, what's happening. So that they see this redshift and they take that to mean that it's 200 billion light years away. That makes them say that quasars are, like, immensely powerful because it's 200 billion light years away, and yet it's this enormous, crazy, like, really bright thing that we can see. So they look at that and they're like, okay, so if it's that far away and yet we still see all this energy, they must be, like, unbelievably, unimaginably freaking powerful, right? The output of energy that these things are making. Like, so some of the fast radio bursts that they've been looking at, the FRBs, which are these, like, really quick, bright flashes that come from random places, and there'll be just one or just two or whatever, and they're saying those are really distant too, and they're saying that.
So like a twinkle star?
No, it's not a twinkle. It's like a flash, right? But it's radio waves. We can't see it. Like, you have to see it with a radio telescope. They're called fast radio bursts, and they're kind of mysterious right now, but they're also very, very distant, but they're so bright in the radio spectrum that they're estimating that, like, in that, like, microsecond of flash, whatever it is that's making this is putting out more energy than our sun does in a million years, okay? In that tiny fraction of a second. More energy than our sun in a million years. That's a lot of energy. So that's based on the redshift, right? So because they think they can tell how far away something is based on these redshifts, that also sort of regulates what they think about the energy levels of these objects, like these supermassive black holes. They're assuming, or they're estimating their massiveness based on the distance, okay, So like this redshift is affecting the way we looked at the entire universe and all these different cosmological theories about what these objects are. All right. Well, here's the problem. I just recently found this out. Hubble, okay, was doing survey, not the telescope, but the guy. He was like looking at galaxies, and he kept finding like distant objects that were in obvious physical association with each other, right? So you have this galaxy cluster, and they're obviously in association. They've got wisps of gas going across to each other and everything, and they're obviously interacting with each other. But one will have a way different redshift than another one in the same cluster. Okay, I saw another picture where there's like a quasar in front of, it's definitely in front of this little blob of a galaxy or whatever, and the quasar's redshift implies that it's way farther back than the galaxy is. So there's something wrong going on there.
What time period is this?
What do you mean?
Like, when was Hubble like doing?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. You always do that to me, Matt. Like whenever I'm talking about weird shit, you ask me some question that I don't know. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know who Hubble is.
Edwin Hubble. He's like a famous astronomer. They named the Hubble telescope after him.
Well, I know the Hubble telescope, but like I don't know like who Hubble.
It's named after
was.
this guy. Yeah, that's who he was.
Okay.
He was an astronomer.
Okay, it's like 1990s,
looked at stars.
80s.
I don't know.
We don't know.
Does it matter? That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's like, what was I was showing you some ancient ruins. You're like, where is that? I'm like, I don't know.
I think you were actually talking about this on one of the podcasts recently. Like every time you tell him a story,
Yeah, I'm like,
you
hey,
ask me
Matt.
some
He's
questions about
like, so when was that? I said, "Why? Who cares? Doesn't matter.
All right, I just had to go outside and deal with dog drama.
Is that what that was?
Yeah. The dog's out there. Mally got mad, so like I had to I just totally lost.
Kyle just bailed in the middle of my story. I was like,
Yeah, because the door
Yeah.
was still open. Guys who went outside and left the door open.
yeah.
My bad.
So
No, that was me.
anyway, yeah. So I'm just kind of like lost.
Okay.
Right at the moment.
All right, so just real quick, like the point I was getting at was that the redshift of these various objects that are in association with each other, so they obviously are right next to each other, where the quasar is obviously in front of the galaxy,
Yeah.
and yet the quasar has a redshift that implies that it's way farther away from us than the galaxy is. This is implying that the redshift calculations that they use to figure out how far away things are may not be totally right. I mean, it may not.
Okay.
It may be something else happening that has nothing to do with distance, right?
Yeah.
And like he found a lot of these things, and it wasn't just one or two anomalies. He found.
And this is Hubble that found these.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was Hubble.
Well, that doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what. Yeah.
Well, he
That
lived
would have
from
been earlier.
1989 to 1953. So
Wait, the other way around though, right? 1953 to 1989.
Yeah.
1889
okay.
to 1953.
Okay, yeah. So he was basically, and I'm pretty sure it was Hubble, but he was looking at these distant objects and finding redshifts that were anomalous based on their obvious physical
Right.
association with each other. Galaxies that are sharing gas have vastly different redshifts, implying that one is much farther away than the other one.
Right.
And when he gave a presentation with a couple of these things he had found, they were like, well, you made a mistake or there's some kind of error or whatever, but he found so many of them. And it's now just kind of ignored. Sort of like the whole thing with gravity having to act instantaneously. It's kind of just sort of ignored. So if that is true, in other words, if it's true that the redshift, whatever it is being caused by something else, or maybe like, cause one of my problems with the redshift is I'm like, well, why are you assuming that the frequency is going to be some particular frequency and now it's redshifted? Why?
Right. Yeah. That's was going to be my next question. Like, how do they know what the frequency should be?
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. Like everything I've tried to find is implying like, okay, so this is, they know that there's this spectrographic analysis will tell you the materials in it, but if it's redshifted, it's going to be telling you the wrong materials, right?
Yeah.
Or it is those materials, and you're assuming that it's redshifted to bring it back to materials you think it should be. I'm just like, that kind of seems arbitrary. So, I don't know, but if the calculation of it also kind of reminds me of geology and stratigraphy, right? They have these assumptions about how old things are based on how deep they are.
Right.
And the reason for that is kind of this opinion. It isn't really a proven thing, right? So there's this opinion that like it takes this long for these type of layers to be laid down. Therefore, if you go all the way down here, this is going to be 130 million years old. Well, that's kind of an opinion. Like nobody's.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with this redshift, right? But what's fascinating about this is that just like the whole geological layering and the age of those things, the redshift is fundamental to our entire picture of the universe because it tells us how far away things are. Whether like it gives us the idea that everything's moving away from us and thus it's expanding, right? The idea of like the way galaxies are built with the supermassive black hole at the center, and then you have these enormous spiral arms of stars, and the galaxy at the center is what's holding it all together. That's based on a calculation of the mass of the galaxy, or of the black hole at the center of the galaxy, and the energy output that it makes based on the distance of how far away they think it is. So they think it's enormous because it's so far away, and yet it's making all this noise, right? Well, if the redshift is wrong, then all that shit goes out. Like, we don't know if there are supermassive black holes. We don't know if quasars could be really close and just like kind of little bit tiny things, you know, like they may not be enormous, like something that if it's only 200 million light years away, it would kill everything, you know, like that's what they say. Like if a quasar was 250 million light years away from Earth and it went off, we would all die. That's how powerful they think they are. 250 million light years away would still kill us because most of them are so distant, they're in the billions, you know, of light years away.
So how does this affect, like, you know, comparatively near objects, like within our own galaxy? Like, do they use the same thing to sort of figure out
like
how far away stars in our own galaxy are?
Yeah, so you look at main sequence stars or whatever, and like, or there's a type 1a supernova, right? And again, this is an assumption that I haven't been able to find really good backing for, but the type 1a supernova supposedly always looks the same when it explodes. It's a star with a specific mass, right? It's really close to they all have the same kind of mass. And so when they go through their nova, the result is, in terms of light output, is going to look very, very similar. So they look at type 1a supernovas all over and they figure out how far away they are based on redshift of those explosions.
And they're also figuring out mass based on their ideas of what gravity is.
Right. And that's based on how far away they think they are, because you have to use distance from, you know, so
right.
The redshift is telling you how far away it is.
I wonder how many times they've seen those.
Well, type 1As, they're everywhere. Yeah. I mean, there's trillions of stars, and some of them are blowing up all the time. So, like an appreciable amount of the light of any given galaxy will be supernova or nova explosions, just because there's so many stars. Some of them are always blowing up.
And how
space is full of things that are exploding.
How much percent, like y'all mentioned like in a previous podcast, that like 2% of the
material
has been like seen from, like we can only see like 2%.
Well, yeah, and that number has been shrinking because like first we thought we could see everything because you look out there and you see all this shit that's glowing, or it's right next to something that's glowing so you can see it. But then they find that there's not enough of that type of stuff, the stuff we can see, to account for how much gravity must be working out there, because things are
these large structures are being held together by
they're
something.
like whirling around each other really quickly, but there's not enough mass in those things to hold them together when they're moving that fast. So they come up with dark matter. Well, based on more and more calculations of dark matter, it makes up like 60% of the mass in the universe, and we can't see any of it. All right, but then they find
90s.
No, then they find dark energy, which like in much larger structures, things are being shoved apart faster and faster, and that's dark energy. So with dark energy and dark matter, that's about 98% of all the mass energy in the universe, and what's left over, the material we can see, is 2%, or like 5% or whatever.
We seem to have the same problem with like our DNA and our brains.
2% of it works.
Studying
10% of our brain works. Yeah. That's right. Maybe that's why we can only see 2% of the universe. We can only use 2% of our brains or something. Yeah.
That's fascinating. So, and that's crazy because like this has been one of my issues with gravity, is that they're looking and deciding what the mass of something is based on this idea of how they understand gravity working.
On the law of gravitation.
Right, which has to do with like how much matter there is.
Yeah, like so the assumption is, because Newton's law of gravitation says you take the mass of the object and its center of mass, and then you calculate the distance from the center of mass of that object to the other object, and then you use the inverse square, and that will give you the pull of gravity. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the mass of that object is causing the gravity. Like, it's just it gives you the mass.
So they're doing it backwards, whereas they're looking at the way the objects move around each other, and doing the calculation and figuring out, okay, well, this object must have this much mass.
'cause- yeah, that's right.
Because the gravity is this.
Yeah, right.
And that could be wrong.
Right, and you have to calculate to use the inverse square. You have to know how far away it is, the distance, and so they're doing that with redshift. And
Right.
if that's wrong too, like, everything's
But
wrong.
we were talking about this same problem about the moon, right? They're like, well, the moon is too big for it to be this dense everywhere, so it must be like hollow, or there must be something else going on there.
That's
and it's
right.
like, well, yeah, but
Lessons.
They're basing that on so the moon is exerting an X amount of pull on the Earth, right? So they think
that it must
gives
have this much mass.
but then they see that it's really dense stuff on the surface, whatever. It's like, well, it can't all be made of that shit, so And then the seismic surveys they do implies that most of it is really dense, so they think it must be hollow because it can't all be that dense. Otherwise, that would be too much mass. So, yeah.
I'm just blown away by like how like look at the harbor in the morning. Like one morning it was like really empty, and the next morning it's like blowing.
Oh, yeah, it's tides you're talking about.
Yeah, tides.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a sailor, I'm just like, that's a lot of water.
Yeah, like the magma also is pulled in the same way. Like
really,
people don't usually think of that, but like just like the ocean is, the water of the ocean is pulled around by the tides. So is the magma underneath the crust, which is why it's still molten probably, because the moon is constantly kneading it, keeping it friction, keeping it hot, right? Like like Mars doesn't have. It has two little potatoes for moons. It doesn't have a big moon that can cause tides, right? So it's cold. It's cold all the way through. Like,
I always want to talk to y'all about that. About magma.
What about?
You know how like Yellowstone's supposed to like super volcano. Like,
yeah.
But like, have you seen like how like it's like super volcano kind of moves as the Earth like?
What do you mean?
As the Earth progresses in age, where the super volcano is.
Oh, because of continental drift? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Because of continental drift. So, if that is happening, like in other words, if continental drift is real, I'm not totally sold on it, but there's some kind of flaw in the plate of the continent itself that allows the volcano to happen in that spot. So, like, it's drifting around. The flaw is in the continent.
So, like, Yellowstone's gonna blow up.
I'm sorry, dude. Brett's got a great comment here.
Okay, what is it? Let's have it.
Yeah, well, the moon's mass versus gravitation anomaly is explained by dark moon. Dark energy, dark matter, dark moon.
Dark side of the moon. Pink Floyd. Rock on.
Hell yeah.
Dark moon. I was thinking the same thing when we were talking about that. I was like, well, maybe there's a dark matter around the moon, but I don't believe in. I just don't think it's real. They can't find it. They've been.
It doesn't interact with anything.
That's what they're saying now, but I'm like, well, it causes gravity, doesn't it?
Right.
It's like it's interacting. I mean, it's holding the whole universe together, according to you guys.
Right.
But
Dark matter matters.
They were thinking it was WIMPs, like they were calling them WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they couldn't find enough WIMPs for that for it to be dark matter. And like we know there's neutrinos, there's trillions of neutrinos everywhere. The sun makes zillions of them or whatever, but they don't have any mass. I'm like, are they really there? Because like if you have something that has no mass and no energy and it's a neutral charge, is it really there? Is it really even a particle?
Yeah.
But the neutrinos are required for the calculations of fusion, right? That's where they come from. Like you do calculations on fusion reactions, and you get these energy outputs in terms of particles, and the neutrinos have to be there to make the equations work. So they may not be real. It may just be an artifact of our math.
Man, that's crazy.
So like we have these like trillions of neutrinos streaming through us, but they're not really there. It's just an artifact of our math. That's very strange. But yeah, how can and I've seen people say something like that.
So could this be part of the like where they're saying space is expanding everywhere and all this stuff is based on the red shift and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So it could be something else, which means this is like
the first thing I thought of it is obviously is like, well, maybe it isn't like you're thinking it's hydrogen, maybe it's something else, and you just think it's redshifted. But it's not.
I think it's redshifted hydrogen, but it's actually something different.
It's actually helium or whatever, whatever would be like a lower frequency than hydrogen, and it isn't just that kind of thing. That there's other types of light where they think, like the type 1A supernova, it, according to them, always looks the same in terms of spectrum, right? And there is precedent for that kind of thing. Like you have a certain type of a reaction, chemical reaction or whatever, that always looks the same. Like always puts up that, right? So if you have this type 1A supernova that they use as the kind of, it's kind of a baseline for checking. So they look for them out in the universe, and when they see one, and then I'm like, well, how do you know where it is? Like,
how do you know it's not redshifted from something else?
Right. Or how do you know that, like, you see a type 1A supernova? Well, supernovas or novas are bright, right? It could be way in front of that galaxy you're looking at or way behind it. How do you time it? How do you think that it's, telling you how far away that galaxy is? Because it could be way back there or like way up here, and you think that it's close, or the galaxy that it is close, when it actually the star is close to you. How do you tell that the star is in the galaxy?
Well, there's got to be a new theory out there somewhere.
No. Well, I mean, the people have like contested redshift, but nobody has a better theory, and this is a problem. If you go and contest this, they're like, well, if we don't use that, then we don't have a way to construct a picture of the universe. I'm like, right, so that's better than having a flawed one. Like, that's better than building a picture that's completely wrong.
But that's one of the things that Feynman talks about too in that book I've referenced many times.
This is the best idea.
The character of physical law.
Yeah.
Is that, like, it's easy to say this idea is wrong. What's really hard is to come up with an idea that could take its place.
Has he tried it? I've been saying ideas are wrong for a long time, and it's not easy. Like, that doesn't work. Oh my God, get out of here, blah, blah, blah.
Well, in other words, it's
yeah, I know.
The hard thing to do is to come up with a viable idea that can replace an idea that you think is wrong.
Right, but that isn't.
So, like, he says that, like, okay, we all think these ideas could be wrong, but we haven't come up with one yet that can replace this idea that we think all think might be wrong.
Right, and I think that's just, to me, that's okay. Like, I'm saying that, like, okay, so I don't have an idea I don't have something to replace this, but that isn't a good argument against my argument that this is wrong. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
But that's what people say. Like, well, like, you have something to replace it. I'm like, well, no, I'm just telling you that this doesn't look right to me. And they're like, well, unless you've got something. I'm like, that doesn't.
Yeah, I know. His point was not to say you shouldn't think ideas are wrong because
you don't have something to replace it. Right.
But it's just like that.
But he's like, we know this is wrong, but we're going to keep using it until we have something better.
No.
Okay, I'm
not
sorry.
saying that
I'm
at
totally
all.
misunderstanding.
I'm just saying that all he was pointing out was that yes, this is the easy part, realizing that some idea is wrong. What's really hard is to come up with something that works that replaces it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But why do they keep using the wrong idea? Is what I'm saying. Like, why?
I don't know. Skirpy derps just say shit is wrong all the time.
Yeah, but it's what they're saying is wrong. Is us saying that mainstream science is wrong? That's what they're skirp derping.
Flat Earth? What?
Huh? What?
Flat Earth?
Flat Earth is real, bro.
Maybe that's what the deal is like it's flat universe.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if, like,
Flat universe with flat Earth?
Are the other planets flat?
yeah, they're all facing us.
Are we just flat? Yeah, they're all facing. They're discs that face us in the sky.
Perfectly facing us. Yeah. Except when the sun shines on them in a strange way, and then you get this weird sort of
there's a line down the middle.
round line.
Yeah.
On them.
It's not. It's an optical.
Because they're all
illusion.
like lenses.
Yeah, it's Flat Earth
shaped.
2.0. There's a hill, right? It's a mound, like the mound has got the tree of man.
That's how you get the curved shadow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got the ring ocean around it, and turtles holding it up.
Yeah, I was thinking of this is not on the redshift thing, but on gravity. I really got to thinking about what we were talking about last time about the sensation of acceleration being the same or feeling the same, or there's no way to distinguish it from the sensation of gravity.
Yeah, I think that's a weird way to say it because gravity is an acceleration, right? What do you mean, like?
I'm this probably just quoting something very terribly, it was Einstein basically made this claim, and it was a principle about it was a discovery really that he made. Okay, and I don't know the proper way to say it. Okay, other than the way I've been saying it terribly this whole time.
Okay, because you'll say it acceleration or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but gravity is an acceleration. But then what you describe is that you're being pushed by something else that's accelerating. That's what you describe. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because what he was pointing out was like if you for example, you have a guy in a spaceship,
yeah,
right, and the spaceship begins to accelerate.
Yeah.
The sensation he feels being pushed against the seat in the spaceship or whatever, or against the back wall, is
indistinguishable from
from the force of gravity. So that force that you feel when something is accelerating, right? So
if you're in something that's accelerating,
if you were just accelerating, you would feel nothing.
Right. That's what gravity's doing to you all the time. Yeah. You have to hit something.
But you're feeling it, right? Yeah. So if you're floating in space, your gravity is acting upon you, but you can't feel it because you're not against something that's
Flying in an airplane.
Well, you're not
that's stopping you.
Yeah, you're not being accelerated against something that isn't letting you move, right? That's the sensation of gravity, is being heavy, like sitting on the ground, being pulled constantly.
Right. If you're in free fall, gravity is affecting you, but you can't feel. You're not feeling it.
Yeah.
If the Earth stopped, like, what would happen to gravity? Would it be?
This is off the subject. The point is that I've been trying to think about that idea more.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like developing this concept that maybe like space itself is some kind of fluid, and there are places where the fluid is like coming out, right? It's being created or it's high pressure.
Yeah.
And those are where planets or stars or whatever, like the bodies that we see in space, are these areas where space is like, I don't know how to describe it, but like a fluid would be just like pouring out.
Yeah.
And it's moving out, and then the areas between, pretty much in every direction, everywhere where there isn't a body or there's space between, it's like being sucked into this vacuum that's out in all of these areas around it. So space itself is actually
It's flowing,
this flow going from this central point, like the center of gravity, flowing out from the center of gravity into the areas beyond.
Yeah.
If I have no
So that we
gravity-
have this, we don't notice a change in spatial dimensions,
Right.
but we feel being up against one of these bodies, that we're being shoved against it because the space is actually rushing past us.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really, really strange.
It's weird, yeah.
Kind of hard to.
If I have no gravity, what is up?
It's arbitrary.
So you're
Like the enemy's gate is down, right? That's
interesting.
yeah. If you're in 0G, then up is whatever direction you decide is going to be for tactical reasons.
Yeah.
But most people pick their feet for down, right? Like, but the orientation is arbitrary. There's no gravity.
sorry for going off that.
No, that's fine.
Everyone always asks me what's up, and I'm just trying to answer that.
Well, if you're in orbit, up is away from the planet. All right. If you're way out in the solar system, up is away from the sun. If you're just out in the galaxy, up is away from the galaxy, right?
Just away from the center of the galaxy.
Yeah. Whatever the nearest large gravitational thing is that's keeping you around it, that's down. Because you're falling towards it, so it's down.
So it's like, what's up? It's like, oh, we can't get into this.
Yeah, it's kind of complicated. Need to look into it. Let me figure out. So, I think that's the thing with the redshift is, like, I wish I understood how they think they can tell the difference between a Doppler shift. Like, in other words, something is traveling away from us, and so its frequencies are redshifting because of that. And then this other kind of redshift that they say is being caused by the expansion of space in between us and it, right? And what's weird about this is, like, so if you start looking into the entire life of the universe and what's going to happen, right? Like, they call what we're in right now the stelliferous age. Stelliferous, which means the age of stars and light.
Yeah.
So it's going to supposedly last
Stella
about,
being the root
Stella,
there.
stellar. Yeah.
What was our previous age?
There wasn't. This is the first one. Well, the previous age was dark because it was like there was the Big Bang, and that was the expansion period, and then there was I don't know, like 200,000 years or something of dark ages because there was so much material so densely packed, but it would cool down enough to where it wasn't luminous anymore. but it was so densely packed that no light could pass through it, so it was just dark. It was the Dark Ages. But then once it expanded enough,
fog.
Yeah. Once it expanded enough, then we had you had dust clouds and shit, but their light could now, and stars started to ignite. Lights started appearing everywhere, and then they coalesce into galaxies and stuff. So we're in the Stelliferous Age, which is basically like a very early period in the entire life of the universe, and it's supposed to last about 100 trillion years.
Do they have a name for the next one?
Yeah, well, the next one is called the Heat Death Age. It's going to take, I don't know, it's incredibly long, but basically, like, once all the stars burn out and there's no fusible material left in the universe, like, so you have all these dead stars, neutron stars, and basically things that are cold, they're no longer burning, and all the light is gone. Then the way that entropy increases at that point is but through slow neutron decay, which takes forever. So, like, the age of the universe from that point to the end of it, where everything is decayed and entropy is at maximum, will take so long that you, like on a graph, if you had a line graph of a timeline, then the 100 trillion years that make up the Stelliferous Age, you wouldn't even be able to see it. It would be so small compared to the slow neutron decay period. It's like
I've got a bad
trillions and trillions and trillions of trillions of trillions trillions of years.
Bad joke. Boba Fett would be done digesting.
That's right, he would. 1,000 years. Doesn't take that long. So all that stuff is based on these redshifting things, right? But they'll tell you that, like, if we have a Doppler effect, like, so you got this expansion and everything's moving away from everything else, and then the farther away something is from us, the faster it seems to be going away from us, which makes sense if you look at if you kind of visualize it like an explosion. So there's this expanding sphere. If you pick any arbitrary point of, you know, material in that explosion, and then you say, well, the thing right next to it is moving away from it, but not very fast, because they have these, like, slightly diverging paths. But something kind of far away from it is moving away from it quickly, because the angle
they're all moving out in a sphere at different
so it does seem to be that the farther things are away from us, the quicker they seem to be moving away.
Yeah.
So that fits that. But again, they're measuring that based on Doppler. Okay. But they claim that the Doppler shifting is different from this other redshift that they're looking at. And this is the part that I'm not quite understand how they are telling the difference between.
Do you think maybe what they're doing is, and I'm just throwing this out there, that they were looking at Doppler and they started to realize that there was more than they could account for, and that's what gave rise to the idea that the space is expanding between?
I think it may be an acceleration is what they're seeing.
That's what it was, yeah. There's an acceleration.
So they're assuming that the Doppler effect is caused by this velocity, but then there's an accelerant, or an appearance of an acceleration, and they're calling that the redshift caused by space. So this is what I was trying to get at. That picture of the universe results in large sections of it being functionally, like, out of our universe because of the speed of light. Like, in other words, if it's far enough away, like, there are things right now that they're looking at, like these galaxies that are incredibly distant, like 8 billion light years away, okay? And it's so far away that it's redshifted so much that it's about to, like, kind of vanish from our universe, because it will be traveling relative to us faster than the speed of light. Not really, but because there's so much space in between us and it that is generating new space, that plus its velocity is going to result in a higher relative velocity higher than the speed of light, so its light will no longer ever be able to reach us, and it will effectively vanish from our universe.
That almost sounds like it might solve the problem of dark matter. Like,
there's gravity from those things.
Well, it's like this problem with the idea of light speed being this ultimate speed or whatever. Yeah. So this whatever's causing this to appear as though these things are basically moving away from us relatively faster than the speed of light, and they're about to go out of our universe, or where, right? If that's not, so in other words, maybe when we look at these distant galaxies and these large structures, and they're doing all these calculations, and they're figuring out that there's, like, got to be way more stuff there.
Yeah.
Maybe there really is way more stuff there, but it has already gotten to the point of
it's redshifted out of
being so, that it appears to not even be there at all.
Oh, just from our perspective, though.
From our
if you were
perspective.
in that cluster, you would see it.
Yeah.
It's closer.
I'm kind of simple-minded here, but like Doppler, I only know like I'm in the Navy and we got radar and like, we get a Doppler shift for like speed. And all
Yeah.
that. We also say Doppler like
We're talking about the same thing.
It's the same thing.
it's radio waves.
No, well, yes. It's just frequency that is, like, if something's coming towards you, the frequency is faster because it's coming towards you, and if it's going away from you, the frequency is slower because it's going away.
So we're getting returns from the Doppler. Okay.
Well, it's like, in the Navy, you guys are sending out signals, and then they're bouncing off of stuff and coming back, right? So if something is coming towards you, and you go boom, and it goes out, and it comes back, it'll be Dopplered, and that will tell you that that'll give you its velocity.
I'm just amazed that we're getting anything back.
Well, it's because we're not doing this to the stars. They're sending out frequencies. They're luminous, right? It would be like you're listening.
Well, how
to
is that? Like so the
Like I'm
frequency
saying-
changes.
Like when a car is honking its horn and it goes past you. That's a Doppler effect. The high pitch to the low pitch as it goes past is being caused by the Doppler effect. The high pitch as it's coming towards you because the frequency's higher because it's moving towards you.
Okay, that explains it more.
Yeah, so the same thing is happening with the light of these different objects in space. If they're coming towards us, the light will be a higher frequency, and if they're going away from us, it's a lower frequency. But everything's going away from us, so everything's redshifted. There's no blue shift stuff. Damn. Yeah, everything's running away from us. That's basically what I think is happening. Just everything's like fleeing from humans. Get away! Get away! So yeah, I think it's interesting because I mean we have this enormous cosmology built up off of these gigantic, immense, like incredibly dangerous, like ridiculously powerful objects because of the distance they think these things are, right?
Yeah.
And that may be just think of that, the universe that we've grown up with, this enormously vast, incredibly, like, it has these enormous, like, objects in it that are just freaking destroying everything around them and, like, putting out all this unimaginable energy. That may not be right. Everything might be kind of close and small. It may not, it's if this redshift is wrong and they actually decide, this is completely wrong, we will have no way of knowing how far away things are, and then the universe will just become like a flat. Like, we won't know how to model it, You'll see structures, but you're like, well, I don't know what shape they are, except for in these two dimensions. Like, are they close? Is it far? Is that a star? Or is it like a little hole poked in the fabric? You don't, if you can't, and this is why they don't want to get rid of the whole redshift. They won't discard it, even though it's got enormous problems.
It seems like all of this really comes back to the theory of relativity too, like that.
Yeah, relativity's in there. Yeah.
Right. So that they know, say, what the frequency of hydrogen is.
Yeah.
And that it's going to absorb this frequency of stuff, so they're going to see something else. What do they call that? Something spectrum.
Yeah, Yeah, it's spectrography.
Spectrography. Yeah. That the idea that the Doppler effect or whatever is all. This is all based on this idea that light speed is a constant and all of that shit.
Yeah. That, like, if something is
So
moving
that
towards you,
anywhere they look in the universe, they can see this, and then they can do the spectrography or whatever and figure out what's going on, and then from there they decide whether it's redshifted or not.
Right, because if light speed is a constant, then it doesn't matter how fast something's coming towards you or away from you, the light will still be going the same speed towards you, which means that what has to change is the frequency rather than
All right. Another stupid question.
What?
Okay, so like we're going around in our solar system, round and round. Like, are you sure they're not like seeing stuff like increasing as we go on one side, and then as we go across the other side, it's like
not fast enough.
Not near fast enough.
Not anywhere near fast enough. Yeah,
because we're not.
Like, you have to be going relativistic. Like an appreciable redshift in light means something is going fractions of the speed of light. We're not.
Do they ever see a shift like that with
A blue shift?
with the way that we rotate through the solar system?
Not-
Do they ever see like a increase in Doppler and a decrease as we go through the solar system?
No.
I mean, it could be measurable,
yeah, but it would be.
but it's so
Tiny.
insignificant.
So minute there.
I mean, the sun itself, with the whole solar system with it, is kind of hauling ass through the Milky Way too. Like, we're not just going around the sun; it's also hauling ass and orbiting the center of the galaxy, and it's tilted 70 degrees, so we're like spiraling through the. It's weird.
My mind is blown.
My mind is blown.
So the whole redshift idea, thinking of it in terms of the Doppler effect, which is So the listener's stationary, and it's perceived that the frequency goes up and then down.
Yeah.
Because as they move towards you, the wave is compressed slightly, so you get an increase in frequency
Yeah.
by a margin, and decrease going the other way. A sound wave moves at, oh god, the show observer's not looking up the speed of sound. Anybody save me?
1,125 feet per second
Kyle knows it, yeah.
at sea
Right.
level.
So, and then the frequency of the wave coming towards you. So those two speeds relative to each other. For a Doppler effect to be observed in space, if the wave is like light radiation, so solar radiation, let's say, if those ratios stay the same, you would have to be moving ridiculously fast towards each other
for a
for
blue
there to be a
shift.
shift, an observable shift. You see what I'm saying?
For a blue shift?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the speed of light versus the speed of sound is
Oh, yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
insane ratio.
Yeah.
So if a car moving 60 miles an hour does this, you have to apply that same ratio, which means this thing is moving
Yeah, but
at you at
that's
an ungodly speed.
that's based on the
The medium air.
frequency of, right? So like if a car horn is at a specific frequency, and when it's coming at you at 60 miles an hour, it's the frequency you're going to hear is going to be increased so much based on how fast the car is coming at you. But it doesn't mean that you can't observe the Doppler in a minute amount. Like if the car is only traveling, say,
5 miles an hour.
right, 5 miles an hour, you could still measure it. It would be
Very small.
extremely small amount. So in other words, the frequency shift would be very, very
It'd be negligible, but it would be there. It would be there.
Right, it would be there.
Yeah.
So,
Right, but if you're adjusting both, like because there's a ratio there, so
Well, I don't know if you can apply the ratio of the sound to light either. I think that's medium based, right?
it's simple. Like you,
well, no,
you
it's frequency
well, it's
of
not
the wave.
simple.
You're going from kilohertz to like the frequency of the wave.
Yeah,
In
but
order for it to be perceived by a stationary relative observer, the frequency of the wave increasing would mean that you would have to have in order for the same thing to be perceived, for the wave to stack, if it has a ridiculously high frequency, you would have to have a ridiculous high velocity, or the wave won't stack. You will not see the deflection of the wave.
that isn't right.
That's,
This is
that's
crazy.
not right.
We're on this little blue
So-
planet that's like rotating through
You
the
have-
solar system, rotating through a freaking solar system, like universe, and like everything's
Did
rotating.
Matt just totally stone us? Did he do the stone thing? The Stone Boys thing where he just
I think he's
No, this, so it doesn't matter. Like you have light is traveling in, like what we say is it's traveling through a medium. The speed that waves propagate in that medium we have
the same.
measured.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we know what they are relatively or fairly close. We can calculate how fast these waves travel through this medium. So if you know what the frequency is of an object that's traveling in the medium, that's broad or propagating a waves in the medium, if you know what that actual frequency is, and then the object is moving towards you or away from you, the frequency that you detect in your detector is going to be shifted one way or the other, depending on whether it's coming towards you or away from you.
Yeah.
That's the Doppler effect, no matter what. So you'll notice that the frequency is slightly higher than what it should be because you actually know what the vibration frequency rate is of the object.
Yeah.
So when you detect this slightly higher frequency, you're like, okay, it's coming towards me.
Yeah.
What Russ is pointing out is that the thing that they're taking for granted is that we know the actual vibration frequency of the real thing that's making it.
Yeah.
And we're assuming that because it's
And we also
redshifted
assume
that
we
it's
know
moving
the
away
rate
from
that
us.
we are traveling away from it
Well, yeah,
and everything
they're
else.
figuring-
Like
they're-
our own speed, we're not stationary.
They're figuring
in
out
this
right.
system either.
Right.
Come on,
They're doing all
use
these
it.
calculations, but the point is that we're making an assumption on the actual frequency of the object that's
Yeah.
propagating the wave, what that frequency is before the quote unquote Doppler effect is taken into consideration, right?
Yeah. You have to know the frequency, the base frequency, before you can calculate the Doppler.
This
Just
is
like
what
with,
we were pointing out,
Yeah.
because like if they're doing a spectrography on something, they're saying, well, that's hydrogen out there, but it's redshifted. Well, how do you know that it's hydrogen and redshifted hydrogen?
Yeah.
when
What
it
if
could
it's just
be
something that's not redshifted? That's the frequency that it blocks or whatever.
It's awesome
right.
because
except
Or
that hydrogen
If
is
it's,
like
say,
on the
observed as helium, hydrogen could have gone through the equivalent of a sonic boom, where it's actually now doubled because the waves overlap. It's actually just double hydrogen,
What?
not helium. We have no way of knowing.
What?
of any of it.
You lost me on that one.
Well, like when a sound wave, the sonic boom happens, you've essentially had the compression of the wave to the point where you now have that.
Yeah, you have to be moving
That's
faster
flat.
than sound to do that. But no hydrogen's moving faster than light, so I don't think
I
we'll
just
have
think
a light
it's
boom.
stupid answer. Like I just think it's awesome that I'm like on an amusement park ride and I'm like I like see where my vehicle is.
Yeah.
and I'm gauging the distance it is.
Yeah, you're on something that's spinning and then is also rotating around something that is spinning and rotating, and then that thing is
There's my
spiraling.
car. Oh shit.
Yeah, no.
Can we just miss a break and just go right on through to
I don't know.
2 hours?
I wasn't looking at the clock.
Because we're almost.
We've done it before.
We have
I
been
think
known
that
to
may
do
have
this.
just happened because it's like we just hit the.
It does.
We're about to hit the 2 hour mark here.
Yeah.
And if I'm correct, I believe
Yeah.
the last time it
Doppler right
was
there.
happening,
Yeah.
the show observer was totally all about it and excited, so we just went with it.
Well,
Yeah, so look up Doppler effect.
yeah, look up Doppler effect. It doesn't matter how fast you're going. If something is moving towards you, it will be Dopplering whatever frequency
Right.
it's putting out, whether it's sound or light or whatever. It doesn't matter. It will.
Whatever wave is propagating in whatever medium that you measure it,
Yeah.
whatever you're
If something
measuring.
is coming towards you, it's going to be Doppler. It's
Right.
going to be
so
blue
the
shifted.
so the key is when a car is moving towards you. Let's say here's a great example of the problem here. A car is coming towards you, honking its horn. Right? Unless you know the make and model of that car and the year and the exact horn that was put in it and that it was not altered after the factory car, and
So that you know exactly
so
what
that you know
frequency.
exactly what frequency that horn should be going at, and you also know that the alternator and everything is working properly to where the voltage is just so it's always it's the exact
Cannot
right frequency.
exactly middle
Then
speed
you can
car.
tell by the sound of the horn how fast that car is coming at you.
Yeah.
The problem that we have is we don't know all that information. We're assuming that we know all of that information and that we know what that vibration is. Now we're saying the car's coming at us at 60 miles an hour. Actually, in this
It's going
case,
away,
it's
yeah.
going away from us at 60 miles an hour.
And
What Russ is saying is
Okay, but
all
we do know that because
No, we
we know
don't.
exactly what stars are made of.
No, we don't.
And we totally also know that because of dark matter balancing our equation, we can say whatever the hell we want and still be right.
All right, troll.
yeah, troll. Thanks, thanks for trolling me.
I thought we
He
didn't
gets
know
to talk
anything.
about amusement park rides. And, all right, I'm a troll. Okay.
Yo, Matt's definitely a troll, dude. Don't make no mistake. He's definitely trolling.
Matt's been trolling us the whole time.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Okay, cool.
So we can do this show under duress. Trolls everywhere.
Yeah.
No
Dog
problem.
running wild.
Yeah. Craziness happening outside. Doors being left open. Moths flying around. Snake Bros goes on.
I will always be here for this stupid question. But what if?
Yeah. Just to make up the what if scenario. Well, how does it if
All right, man. Well, thank you guys for listening to that fiasco. It was a lot of fun.
yeah. This is
Yeah, who would have known that having a stone on the show created chaos?
We just got impacted by a stone.
that's right. Damn it. Guys, gotta get ready for the stone from space. Eat nuts. Gonna eat food parts. Just make your awesome fossil face and just prepare to die. So thank you guys very much for listening. This is episode 40 of Brothers of the Serpent podcast. You can get a hold of us through email at brothersoftheserpent@gmail.com. You can go to the blog brothersoftheserpent.blogspot.com. You can comment there. You can talk shit, troll us all you want, like these guys. Ask us stupid questions. If
Ask us to advertise your products.
that's right, you can.
If you make apps designed to mine people's data off of Facebook and you want us to advertise for you, send us a note.
hey.
If there's theories about how you can have hundreds of people die up in the Himalayas from hail that falls from the sky and hits them all equally. In
Yeah, let us
one
know
spot on
that.
the
I
head.
want to know how that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know how kids can go, 14 miles in 2 days over mountains. But let's see what else. I was gonna say, give us some good reviews on iTunes or Tuned In or Stitcher. Snitcher. Should make one called Snitcher for CIs. Also, we're on Player FM. We just found out we're on Player FM. So you guys can go to any one of those platforms and listen to the show there and give reviews, because that will really help us get listenership, because we don't have any social media. But we did make an Instagram today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we were working on the Hinge project and we had pictures and we were like, what are we going to do with these? Can't really know what we're going to do with these pictures. So I was like, we'll make an
You guys are
Instagram.
like the worst nerds
Hey,
ever.
I
Where are we gonna
suggested
put our
that. Come on,
pictures
you're
on the
trying to steal-
internet?
Yeah, Kyle was like, let's make an Instagram. I was like, what even is that?
I got a picture of his eyeball.
I don't know, but I know that there's pictures in it.
Do you even Instagram, bro? So we made one, and I think we used it. I'm not sure. I tried to post a picture on there. But yeah, so
I
you
got a
look it up.
picture.
Brothers of the Serpent Instagram thingy, whatever, however you find it.
Contact us on the blog to let us know if we used it, and it's there.
Yeah,
I took a picture of his eyeball, but he says it's a reflection of the lens.
that's right. So I think that's it.
Thanks a lot, folks.
That's right. Thank you very much. Good night, Adamu. Good snake, bro. Let's talk about snakes. Doppler effect. Yeah.
And if I don't,
Then I will consider the theft an act of aggression against the Vox family. An act of war.
Ariel Vox should appear to be a analogy. Goodbye, Mr. Vox. And regards to your brother.
Every war has
Stay out of trouble.
Greetings. Journey well.